Okay, welcome everybody. I'd like to call this council meeting to order at 5:30 p.m. And I can see that we have full quorum today. Isn't that great? Welcome back, Councillor Cluche. I know you've been with us, but it's nice to see you in person. With that, Councillor Stone, I believe, is reading the land acknowledgement statement.
I'd be happy to. I would like to respectfully acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe under the terms of the Robertson-Huron Treaty Number 61 of 1850 and the Williams Treaties of 1923. We commit to acknowledge, learn, educate, create opportunity, honor sacred spaces, and take actions towards real truth and reconciliation in support of our commitment to walking the path together in respect, peace, and harmony for future generations.
Thank you, Councillor Stone. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Okay, seeing none. Our first item of information, I should say, is a very big welcome to Jordan Smith, who is our new Director of Operations. And I actually have some notes and I'm going to read in case there are members of the public who are watching us tonight. We're very excited to welcome you, sir. This is a role that brings with it great opportunities and challenges all at once. And we're just really excited that you're here. And for those of you who don't know, Jordan brings extensive and progressive leadership experience in municipal operations, infrastructure management, and public works, most recently serving as Director of Operations for the City of Prince Rupert. And he decided to choose Huntsville. Just adding that. Throughout his career, Jordan has demonstrated strong expertise in strategic planning, asset management, and capital project delivery, including the integration of GIS systems and long-term infrastructure forecasting, aligned with council priorities and funding opportunities. Prior to his current role, Jordan progressed through increasingly senior positions across these roles. He has led multidisciplinary teams, managed complex infrastructure projects, overseen regulatory compliance and risk management, and supported organizational success through effective people leadership, budgeting, and operational oversight. So please join us in congratulating Jordan on his new role and in welcoming him to the Huntsville team. Thank you.
Fix all our roads.
He's got a daunting task ahead. That's all I can say. Too late now. You're with us. All right. So moving to invited and ceremonial presentations, we have Glenn Venterchak and Emma Roy from BDO Canada LLP to talk about our 2025 draft audited financial statements, and they're both online. So over to you two and welcome.
Greetings, everyone. Your worship, members of council, thanks for having us on. Quick introduction, Glenn Venterchak. I'm a partner with BDO, been a partner for about 18 years. Senior manager is Emma Roy. She's been navigating getting through this audit this year. So thanks to that. What I'd like to do is, I'm not sure exactly how much time I have, but I'm going to highlight, I'll probably spend 5 minutes going over the draft financial statements. Then Emma's going to kick in and talk about another report, go over 3 or 4 main points on that, and then we'll brief and talk about any other questions or anything else at that point in time.
That sounds great. As long as we have lots of time for questions, I'm sure there will be. So that's great. Okay. Thank you.
Perfect. So what I'm going to do is, if somebody can pull up the financial statements, I don't know whether, Emma, you've got that ability to share.
I do not.
I'll see if I can share. It sounds like we do not have that ability to share. Is Jessica online?
Well, that was a very fast presentation. Thank you very much. And clearly we don't have any questions. So moving along. They're working on it. Or they are very capable staff. They would like it if you two could try again. Maybe they,
Sure, I'll go ahead.
You gonna try, Emma?
Yes. And I'm able to now.
okay, that's great. Thank you both.
I think it's just popping up. Can everybody see what they
It-
call the
It's very small,
small?
but maybe so it is the same as we have in our report, and we've all read the report. But
Okay.
there we go.
Well,
The public
We're trying
hasn't.
to make it a little bit bigger.
There
for-
we go. That's better.
All right.
One more would be great if you could make it a little bit bigger. There. Now, that's great. Thank you.
So what I'm gonna kind of, because I can't see everybody's faces, but I will at least try to keep it very high level, and then we can drill down into more details. I'm gonna mainly circle around 3 items. So one is the financial statements are actually management statements. Although we may have assisted in drafting it, what goes on BDO letterhead is actually our audit report, because that's what we're hired to do. And typically you'd get what we call a clean or an unqualified audit report, and it's typically 2 to 3 pages long. This year, we have one item which we wanted to at least raise to management and to council's attention, is that there was a new standard. It's called asset retirement obligations. And that standard came into play a couple years ago, but it basically requires management to find any environmental type of items, liabilities, and make sure that they're being recorded properly and go through a process to ensure they're tabulated, they're known. I'm going to outline the 2 main ones that we typically see with municipalities, and it's for buildings that have asbestos or lead pipes in, let's say, arenas or things like that, or even capped wells where they're being decommissioned, but from an environmental law standpoint, they need to be captured within the accounting standard. So the standard was introduced a couple years ago, and right now we don't have enough backup from management. They're working on it, but they don't have enough tabulated numbers to know what items have environmental items, and then again how much it would cost in today's dollars, being December 31st. So we expect this qualification to likely go away next year. That's the plan. It's just as of December 31st, 2025, we don't have that listing of what those asset retirement obligations, those liabilities would be. So I wanted to bring that to your attention because it is unfortunate, but it is part of our standards where we have to disclose that that standard hasn't been tabulated. So I'd like to maybe then go on to what they call the statement of operations. And it shows what monies and revenues come into the organization, into the corporation, and then what monies are leaving to go out as far as expenses. So in total, high level, $42.8 million of revenues came in to the town. That excludes any, live, like things like the school boards or any, county items. It's just your 42.8 million, including user fees. That 42.8 is about 9% higher than it was last year at $39.3 million. Then from your revenues that come in, you obviously have to pay some bills, and those bills tabulated to about 36.7 million. In the prior year, it was 34 million. So that's up. Your expenses are up about 6%. I would say you're doing well on the revenues coming in and keeping your expenses generally in line. But what this means is you have more revenues than expenses coming in, totaling about $6.1 million. So you add that 6.1 million plus all the other years excess, including the 4.7 from 2024. And now in totality, the accumulated surplus to cover all town assets and things like that is now $110.5 million. I will caveat it that you can't just spend it. It's not all free money or anything like that. But it is totaled of $110 million. You will also note on this page that we have what we call a prior period adjustment. In the prior years, there was a thing called Lakeland Holdings, and it's like the hydro distribution. And that had been recorded on the town's books at what we call modified equity, or you're increasing your surplus to account for what they have technically earned and distributed out. Unfortunately, you don't control Lakeland Holdings. In a very high level view, from an accounting standpoint, you have to treat it at cost. And unfortunately, what that means is from an accounting standpoint, we had to do an adjustment to remove those accumulated equity from the town's books. So now the town has an accumulated surplus of $110.5 million, up from $104 million. So now what I'd like to do is maybe go back one page. And what this last page is it shows a statement of financial position. It shows what you own versus what you owe. So in totality, between cash and investments and taxes receivable, you have assets, financial assets of $55.6 million. And then from there, you owe some bills at December 31st. Not necessarily all going to be due right at that point in time, including like long-term debt and deferred revenue. You have bills of $27 million. So the difference between those two is what we call a net financial asset. You have more assets than you have of debt of $28.6 million. You add your net financial assets of $28.6 million, along with all your roads and bridges and all your capital assets, tangible capital assets, totaling $82 million, and you get to the total accumulated surplus of $110.7 million. You know, that's a lot to absorb. So I'm going to pause right now and I'm going to go back through. I'm going to talk about, you got an audit report. It's generally a clean audit report, except there's one area called asset retirement obligations that management's still working on. You do have financial assets, money in the bank, some investments. You have some liabilities, but you have more assets than liabilities, totaling $28.6 million. Plus you have a bunch of capital assets, tangible capital assets. And between the 28.6 and net financial assets and the capital assets of 82 million, you have a total accumulated surplus of 110 million. So I'm going to pause. I'm going to answer any questions.
Okay.
I wasn't going to go through every other line letter. They're all statutory in nature, but I'll post it open for questions.
Thank you, Glenn. So I will ask council if there are any questions at this point. I'm assuming with the qualification that it's, again, you made reference to it twice, it's because of the fact that we have not identified or quantified what that is. And by the end of this year, we will have done that, which would then remove the qualification.
That's the intent and that's the nature.
And you're currently...
Right now, it's not yet tabulated. And then once you know, let's say you have an asbestos in the building, and you said 40% of this building is, well, how much will it cost to remediate it? First thing is you need to identify what assets have those potential retirement obligations.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Worship, and through you. So you did mention earlier that it's a legislative requirement in financial reporting, but you thought that it may not be required moving forward. Can you enlighten me on that a little bit?
So right now, we don't even know if it's material. Like if it's $100, then it's not material to the organization. But right now, we just don't know whether it's $100 or $1 million. We don't know. So we've got to have management go through and identify what items there are, and it's what I call a process. So once those are determined, we can then help audit that and make sure that we're in the right track to remove that qualification next year.
Again, it's because of the uncertainty. Right.
Right, and it's an accounting standard. Like If you have a known liability, you're going to have to remediate these because it's an environmental government policy, then you have to treat that as a liability and have it on the town's books.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thank you, Worship. Just a quick one. So would this include InfraPipe that we have?
The which? Sorry, I
InfraPipe,
missed
it's leased land we have.
We lease to a company called InfraPipe.
Right.
So,
So to answer your questions, the standards have kind of moved from being, let's say, what they call contaminated sites or things that are environmental issues to known environmental issues. Okay. And I would say, based on our understanding of what the process is, that there are environmental assessments being studied. And right now, we're not sure. We don't know where those assessments would lead. So keep doing the assessments, keep doing the work, and then we can see whether there's an accounting standard that requires it.
okay, that's helpful. Thank you. Okay, Glenn, I'm not seeing any more questions at this point, so if you'd like to carry on, that'd be great.
Perfect. I wasn't going to go through the rest of the financial statements. It's more statutory in nature. You have to have these types of disclosures. So I wasn't going to go through and take up a lot of people's time. What I would like to do is pass it over to Emma. She can then wrap up 3 or 4 kind of points of where we're at with the audit today and talk about a couple other things of where our standards are coming down to in the next couple of years. So I'm going to pass it over to Emma.
Thanks, Glenn. So I'm going to go through our audit communication to council. I'm not going to go through every page, but we'll pause at a few pages that include some key items for discussion. So this part of our letter discusses our responsibilities related to fraud. As part of our audit, we consider fraud risks in the planning and execution of our audit, and we do inquire with management and those charged with governance whether they're aware of any actual suspected or alleged fraud. Throughout the course of our audit, no such issues related to fraud were reported to us. However, if you are aware of any instances of fraud, we would ask that you do please let us know prior to us finalizing the financial statements. I will move on to the next slide, which discusses our materiality. So our materiality for the audit was set at 1.62 million. This is based on 2% of the town's tangible capital asset balance. We also have a specific materiality of 1.28 million that was applied to our financial statement areas not associated with tangible capital assets. So that was applied to the revenues and expenses reported in the statement of operations. I'm going to pause at this slide. Within the letter that you would have received, there is a link to a BDO publication, and it's entitled 4 Challenges Facing Canadian Municipalities. And number 1 in that article is digital transformation. So within the municipal sector, there are some municipalities that are using Great Plains, which is facing an end of life. This is not the case for the town of Huntsville. But many neighboring municipalities and those across the province are having transition to new ERP systems. And they're finding that this is an opportunity to transition to a more modern alternative with the potential for some significant internal efficiencies. So going forward, the town should continue to monitor their existing technology and whether it continues to best meet their needs. The next slide here talks about a new accounting standard coming into effect for the 2027 year end. So this will have a significant impact on financial statement presentation and will require significant effort on the part of the finance department. So it is something that it's important the council is aware of. This next slide talks about some key considerations getting ready for the implementation of this standard. And this is something that the finance department needs to start working on now to ensure they're ready for reporting in that 2027 year end. from that, at this stage, our audit is substantially complete. We'll be sending a representation letter to management to sign. We'll need council to approve the financial statements, and then we'll be doing some work related to subsequent events up to our financial statement report date. Any questions on the items I discussed or other items included in the letter?
Okay, thank you, Emma. Are there any questions up till this point? I'm not seeing any. Oh, yes, Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you, thank you for the presentation, Emma. Just a question regarding the financial statement presentation, like key considerations. You're saying we have to have these things ready for 2027, but not for 2026? So for the budget that we have now?
Correct.
Okay.
The important thing is that your comparatives for the 2027 year end will be the 2026. So we do encourage management to start considering the impact that those will have now to make sure that any sort of systems changes or account mappings or changes that maybe need to be made are implemented.
Thank you.
I just want to also reiterate, it is a 2027. That's when you move to this new standard. It's not for 2026, i.e. in a few months from now. But as Emma said, yeah, it is going to take a little bit of changes within the system.
Great. Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just curious, would BDO recommend anything to strengthen financial reporting and governance for us?
So during our audit, if we do note anything that would need consideration, i.e. from an information system things, we would issue to management what we call a management letter. It's recommendations. It doesn't mean that we've found anything to be materially or structurally incorrect or done improperly at this stage, but we would issue that in a draft format so that management could then take it away and either investigate the issues to make sure that factually they're correct or things like that. So our first obligation is we draft up a management letter and then we'd send it back to management to double check. But I can confidently say that we did not find anything structurally incorrect from what we've seen in this year's audit.
That's good. That's a good statement. Thank you for that. Are there any other questions? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Thank you very much for your presentation tonight.
Cheers.
Okay.
Reach out to us. We're here to help.
Yep.
Even though we're just the auditors.
We have a motion ready later on in the meeting under new business dealing with this. Okay.
Fair enough.
Thank you. All right, so council, we're moving to deputations, and in fact, we do have two, and starting with Dave Connell from Hope Arises project, and to talk about the Wikwasi Jaman Birch Bark Canoe Building, and I think I just wrecked that name, so I know that Dave is going to correct me when you come forward, and great. Welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship. Wikwasi Jamanke.
Thank you.
It's,
Was it, okay. Was it,
and it's an Anishinaabe word for birch bark canoe build. So you can say birch bark canoe build. That's okay too. My name is Dave Connell. I'm here representing Hope Arises Project Incorporated. And I'll just give a little introduction. I know you're all aware of the organization, but Hope Arises has been a part of the Huntsville community since 2022. We're an Indigenous-led grassroots charitable organization, and our mission is to advance reconciliation, foster cultural understanding, and strengthen community connections by centering Indigenous knowledge, leadership, and ways of being. We have collaborated with the town of Huntsville, the Huntsville Library, the BIA, and the Huntsville Festival of the Arts to bring attention, education, and cultural awareness to our community, including helping to organize events for National Indigenous Peoples Day and National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. Our latest initiative, in Huntsville at least, is Wikwasi Jamanke, a birch bark canoe build. And this will take place between September 28th and October 9th in Rivermill Park, downtown Huntsville. I am the project lead for Hope Arises on this project. And I've been helped by a volunteer named Bill Weaver. And Bill and I came up with this idea. It's actually been a couple of years that it's percolated for a while, and then we got to work on it. And Bill is a retired physician from the Six Nations of the Grand area. So he served a lot of the people, Indigenous people from Joyce's home community, just a coincidence there. And we've been working pretty hard on this. So we have the support of Joyce, obviously, and she's doing other work. You'll hear more from her going forward as it starts to become time to promote and communicate about the event. Bill and I are the organizers, but it is led by a master canoe builder named Chuck Commanda. He's an Algonquin builder from Kitigan-Zibi First Nation in Quebec. And he learned his trade from his grandparents, William and Mary Commanda, and he's part of a long family line of canoe builders. Interested to note that he learned from his grandparents, not his parents. His parents went to residential school, so they missed that whole experience and had that whole part of their life taken away. He is trying to bring it back through the canoe. He is assisted by Amberly Kwakajizik, and she's a young woman from Brunswick Coast First Nation up near Chapleau. And she had helped him for 4 or 5 years on local builds up there, and came on as his assistant about 1.5 years ago, I think. So she's been traveling with them and works with them throughout the build. Interestingly enough, she is a member of the band council up there at Brunswick Coast First Nation. That's near Chapleau. So the build will take place in Rivermill Park. They will bring all the materials that they've mostly been harvested already in the bush in traditional ways. There may still be some to harvest, such as spruce root and that sort of thing. But they'll bring everything. We'll set up the day before on September 27th, so they're ready to go Monday morning, September 28th. And they'll start by laying out a sheet of bark. And then they'll add to that as they need to, with extra side panels or end panels, and that gets fastened with spruce root by hand. Everything is done by hand. Some modern tools are used just to speed up the process and be able to keep things on schedule, but it is a very traditional build done with natural materials, harvested in a natural way. And in the end, by the second Friday of the 2-week period, the canoe will be ready for the water. There will be what we call a birthing ceremony. Some might be more familiar with the term launching ceremony, and it will take place in the Muskoka River, where there will be initially some speeches and ceremonial talks and that sort of thing, and then the canoe will be launched, and Chuck and Amberly will paddle it, and a few others may get a chance to paddle it as well, and that's all to be determined. But that's the plan for the second Friday of the 2-week period. We do have some very good community support already. I'd like to mention Explorers Edge. They've come on as a funding partner with us. We also have had a very good donation from Rotary Club of Huntsville, and some very good in-kind support from Algonquin Outfitters, The Grapevine, E.J. Williams Surveying, and Huntsville Festival of the Arts has committed to helping out as well. So we're very much looking forward to this, and our aims, I guess the whole purpose of us doing this, it does align with the mission of Hope Arises in terms of bringing people together in the spirit of in the spirit of reconciliation. Chuck's reason for doing these builds, he's done over 100 in schools and First Nations communities and that sort of thing. But to him, every build is a ceremony, and the aim is renewal, reconciliation, pride, and forgiveness. And you could transfer any one of those words to his history and his background, and you can understand why he does this. It is his living, of course, but there's a lot more to it than that for Chuck. He sees the canoe, and I agree with him, as a canoe maker myself, the canoe is something that can bring us together. And if you think of our history here, how since contact, Europeans and First Nations people traveled by canoe until, 100 years ago maybe? It might have been the main form of travel in Canada, especially in this part of Canada. We have invited schools from not just our local school board, but from further north and over near Perry Sound. We've invited First Nations from all over the area. So, and we're hoping that we'll get some good attendance from them. We're hoping to provide some funding for school buses so that students can come. And in terms of promoting the cultural understanding, which again is part of our mandate as Hope Arises, we have created, in addition to the build itself, which will happen in the main tent in the center of the park, we will have 4 outlying tents, smaller tents, that we're going to call learning spaces. And these will offer displays, educational materials, so people can start to learn a little bit about Indigenous worldview, connections, spiritual connections of the canoe, and the importance of the canoe in our history and that sort of thing. And this is done, Chuck and Bill and I are involved, but under the supervision of Chuck, the canoe builder, of Joyce, and of Jan Beaver, who is knowledge keeper and advisor to Hope Arises. So we're well guided in that sense of the word. What we're hoping to do here is create a lasting symbol of reconciliation for the community, and hoping to make it available to community groups, schools, and that sort of thing as a symbol to give talks and educational talks and that sort of thing. It also, given the dates that we've chosen, it aligns with September 30th, National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. And I think it will really support the activities that are being presented by the town on that day and reinforce that message of reconciliation. And as far as I understand it, Chuck and Amberly will maybe talk at that event as well. So, in terms of benefits to Huntsville, I think obviously the first one is it's going to bring a lot of visitors to town. A lot of them local, of course, students, First Nations people, tourists that are already here, maybe to look at the leaves and that sort of thing. But there's a tour package being organized for German tourists by Explorer's Edge, and they were going to be visiting and being part of this as well. I think because this is a major event, we're going to occupy the park for 2 weeks. It's going to be hard to miss this activity. It's going to highlight the community's commitment to reconciliation and the Truth and Reconciliation Committee's 94 calls to action. Also, in terms of the town, I think the canoe could be available as a display if the town was interested, whether at the Summit Center, the library, or something like that, as a symbol of reconciliation. So the main part of the reason I wanted to be here, I wanted you guys to hear it from us rather than by word of mouth or through a news release or something like that. I want to, you were a counselor for this town, so I wanted you to know what's going on. But I also thought, if the town is interested in helping, there are ways that you could help move this project forward. One of them being to waive the park fees for the rental of the park. I don't know if this is possible, but to include the event under town insurance. And that would help financially, and that second one would help just simplify things, if you know what I mean. I have applied for a community grant to help with event costs, and just want you to be aware of that. And I'm hoping that will come through. And that's all I have to say. I wish I'd had some pictures to show you and that, but unfortunately I missed the deadline to submit them, so that was on me.
Those darn deadlines.
I know, right?
Thanks, Dave. Before I turn it to questions, I know there are plenty. I really appreciate the presentation. I was neglected to introduce Jennifer Monpetit, who's here from RTO 12, and you kept referencing Explorer's Edge, and
Explorer's
they've
Edge, yeah.
made a substantial contribution to this project. So,
They have, and Jennifer's here to support me.
and
to
she's
do
here to
this,
support
so,
you and
yes.
doing a very good job.
Yes.
So, thank you for that. Before I turn, it also, the project does align with the town's strategic plan as well, as to inclusivity and reconciliation, which we have identified as being very important. So I think I had Councillor Cloutier first, followed by Councillor Fitzgerald.
Through you, Chair. Thank you very much. In my recent travels, I've probably looked at 100 birch bark canoes in the last 3 months. I even come across a moose-hide freighter canoe for the heavy loads. But anyways, that's beyond the point. It's a great project. I think after seeing them, how they build them and what they were used for, where I traveled was unbelievable, and how the importance of them. But I just, on a cautious note, do we have security at night while this is going on? Or is there something arranged for security at night down there? It's not a nice thing to think about, but it's something to think about.
That's a great question. CAO Corey, do we have?
Thank you, Your Worship. So we actually don't have a dedicated security system down there. We do have our video surveillance, but it is not manned by like an individual watching.
But we do have video surveillance.
I would have to have
Whether or not it covers
the
that.
Director of Legislative Services confirm perhaps what area is covered, but we do have it down in the park. I just don't know the exact location. Actually, the Director of Community Services does not cover down into the park. It's just around the washrooms. So.
Okay, all right. Good question. We'll have to think about that.
If I could address that,
Yes.
thank you for bringing that up, because it is on my mind as well. And we have looked into hiring a security guard, and it's on my list to get in touch with the OPP, because they have expressed interest in possibly helping out some way. I want to at least get their advice, and I haven't had a chance to connect with them yet, but
They could certainly increase the patrol
yeah.
around,
So
around the area, which
That is, it is something we've thought of and that
Yeah.
we're working on. And if the town can contribute in any way, that
we
would be
could
awesome
certainly
as
follow
well.
up on something.
Thank you.
Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Worship. Thanks, Dave. You've obviously put a lot of work into this, came very well prepared. I think it's an awesome project, and I'm happy to support it. I'm really excited that the kids in our area and further around our surrounding area are going to have an experience and get to share in this experience, and more learning for them. I recently had an opportunity to do a water walk with the kids at my daughter's school in Port Sydney, and it was an amazing experience for the kids, and they were all enthused by it. And the more they know, the more they know. So I think it's a great opportunity. I'm going to support it, and I'd even offer to walk around there for a night.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thank you, Worship. Two-part question, actually.
Yep.
So the first part is, does the canoe get to stay here when it's finished?
In
What is
Huntsville,
this- What is this, yeah, and what
Yes.
is the size of the canoe? How
it's
long
a,
is it?
it's a 12-foot canoe.
12 foot?
So it's not a big canoe, but it's wide, it's deep. And if I had the picture, you could see Chuck, who's a big guy, and Amberly paddling it very comfortably. I know I have a lot of canoeing experience myself, and 12 foot sounds pretty small, but they seem to manage quite well in it.
So,
And it-
sorry.
Sorry.
A quick follow-on up, actually. I'm just curious, the cost associated with the rental of Rivermill for that time frame for 2 weeks solid.
Should I
I-
turn to Director Babineau?
I think it's just under 1,500.
And we do have the request. Maybe Director Frame, would you like to respond to the request around waiving or the process required?
Yeah, so through you, Mayor Alcott. So we do have the community grants and supports program. So I think it was last year, we got rid of the fee waiving and combined it in with our small grants program. So we did receive a grant application and I reviewed it just this morning. So absolutely, this event qualifies for funding through our grant program, and the maximum grant amount is $1,500. So I know, and sorry, Dave, I haven't responded to your email yet. But I think there are other costs, not just the park permit fees, that we could include in the calculation of the grant, the funding amount, to really maximize that funding potential. And just to speak to the other requests regarding the insurance piece, we do have a facility user insurance sort of package that we offer to renters. And that cost could also be included in the calculation of our grant to make sure that we're maximizing that as much as we possibly can within our existing programs and policies.
That's great. Thank you for that. There you go, just like that.
Thank you.
I'm going to Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Dave, for coming in. This is just another great example of, obviously, the great work that Hope Arises is doing, but the partnerships that are the Huntsville Fest of the Arts are involved. I mean, you've worked with the BIA, you've worked with now with Explorers Edge. And thank you to Explorers Edge for stepping up and actually, being a part of this, which is great. I don't know if you answered specifically Deputy Mayor Armour's question about the canoe itself. Where does it end up? Does it stay in our community?
It
or-
does.
Oh,
It does.
okay.
It does. It will be under the care of Hope Arises and hopefully made available to community organizations, schools as a symbol of reconciliation, as an educational piece. And the educational materials that we're developing for this 2-week event would be available with the canoe if required. Yeah.
Thank you.
How exciting. This really is a coup for us, for that Hope Arises and all of the organizations got together to bring this to our community, I have to say. I feel we're very fortunate.
Thank you. And I'm so glad that you feel that way.
Good, good. Councillor Stone.
Just a quick one. So the students that are coming, and do they get hands-on, or do they just have to watch?
In terms of the canoe itself,
Yeah.
there is a limited amount of work that they could do realistically. And based on my own experience, I've helped with a couple of these builds, lashing things together with spruce root. And there's a lot of that to be done, especially in the first week. You get beyond that and it's a little technical, a little more skill required or tools required or whatever. And so it's a little more difficult to have them do it. But we do encourage students and the public to get involved, to get hands-on.
Great.
Yeah. But I'm just trying to be realistic about how much they can do. So I don't want to create expectations.
Okay. Councillor Schumacher.
So yes, thanks Dave for the presentation, totally on board. And I assume you've probably already done this. Are you reaching out as the school boards start in September to provide them with that package that each, I think there's certain classes, it's grade 5. I did the water walk with Councillor Fitzgerald at VK Career School as well. So I believe there is a certain curriculum within a certain grade that they would come and do Indigenous studies, and
Yes.
assuming you're reaching out to each of the schools in the area with that package that they can then come and do.
Yes, we have reached out at the end of June. We reached out to, I don't know, almost 30 schools, I think, in total, including some from the Near North School Board and the Catholic School Board. We've heard back from some. We will revisit that at the end of August or early September so that we're right up to date with them. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for letting me speak.
Yeah, you're most entirely welcome. All right. Thank you. And we will now move to our second deputation. We have Sheila Dodd from Home Children Canada, who would like, and she is here with us virtually to talk about a flag raising and clock tower lighting request. So I think we're bringing Sheila in. Okay, welcome, Sheila. We can see you. Can you see us or hear us? Oh, you seem to be on mute.
Me okay?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna close my window.
Oh, okay.
Trains going by.
All right.
All right, so I'm ready to go.
Okay, welcome. And you're here to talk about the Home Children Canada. Found it, right?
Yeah. Yes, correct.
Okay, so over to you.
All right, thanks so much. So good afternoon, Mayor Alcock, Deputy Mayor Armour, the clerk and councillors. I am Sheila Dodd, a member and volunteer with Home Children Canada. And I'm asking you to please approve of my request to have the flag raising at the Summit Center and the lighting of the Huntsville Town Clock on September 28th which is British Home Child Day, and it's to help create public awareness as part of Home Children Canada's Beacons of Light public awareness campaign. A brief history: between 1869 and 1948, over 100,000 British children were sent to Canada as indentured laborers, domestics, under contract at local area farms and homes. And they were not sent to loving homes, but sent to work, as in the case of my son's great-grandmother, Ethel Blackman, who was sent at age 7 to Point Ideal in Lake of Bays. And my friend's grandpa, he was sent to a farm in Brunel Township at age 5, both different sending organizations. It is estimated that 3,000 of these 100,000 children were sent to Muskoka and Huntsville areas alone, and many are buried in your local cemeteries like Hutchison and Locks, including my son's great-grandmother and grandfather. Home Children Canada is a not-for-profit organization established in 2012 and is dedicated to elevating the BHC, or British Home Child profile, and preserving their memory. Our volunteers research and help descendants piece together their BHC story, as it was often hidden due to shame, prejudice, and stigma that was brought about by Canadian society. We do all of this research for free. So our belief is that nobody should have to pay to find out where they came from or where their family came from. We also have Home Children Canada also started our own registry, and we have 84,000 of these children to date, and we're adding in more constantly. And we've also established at the Home Children Canada War Service Index, as over 12,000 British home children fought for Canada and the CEF in both world wars. We collaborate with Veteran Affairs Canada, who have a dedicated page about the British home children, veterans, and servicemen that helped win our wars. Many died in Vimy Ridge. Over 600 of them are on the monument in Vimy. The Beacons of Light is an international initiative with many Canadian municipalities doing proclamations, bridge, tower, clock, and town hall lightings, etc., including this year we have again the CN Tower, Niagara Falls, both sides, the Peace Bridge in Fort Erie, the Byward Market Ottawa sign, and the Toronto sign in Nathan Phillips Square, the Giant Fiddle in Sydney, Nova Scotia, the Edmonton High Level Bridge, and in Liverpool, England, where most of these children departed, we have the Liverpool Town Hall lighting up, the Cunard Building, and St. George's Hall. So by you lighting up and doing our flag raising, you'll be joining many, many other municipalities and towns and cities across Canada, the UK, and into the States, where many went, including my grandma's brother, who was a British home child. Uncle Jim, he left as soon as he could and went to New York City. It is said 1 in 10 Canadian is a descendant now of a British home child, and that includes our Premier, Doug Ford, Don Cherry, the sports personality, and former Bloc Québécois leader, Gilles Doucette, and all of their grandfathers were British home children. As I said earlier, my connection to Home Children Canada is that my own grandma and her brother were also British home children sent over later in the 1930s and late 20s. Many of these children had terrible placements and were not well treated. Most of them suffered isolation and were worked to death. Many of the local British home children still have family in the Huntsville area, like my son's Jennings cousins, who are now into their 4th generation from his great-grandma Ethel Blackman. And on the Jennings side, they were pioneers of Lake of Bays and Brunel Township and their 5 generations. I'm also an accredited speaker with Home Children Canada, and I will be doing a presentation at Muskoka Heritage Place on September 28th. So I really would like to be there for the flag raising, if possible, as well. And I also am a researcher and registry updater. So I'm one of the ones who do that for free and help people find out what their British home child story was. We had our president, Lori Olszewski, speak at the Huntsville Historical Society 3 to 4 years ago. And my presentation at Muskoka Heritage Place is also in conjunction with the Huntsville Historical Society. So that about wraps it up. I hope you support us and can see the value of helping create this awareness to let more people know about the British home children. We do have it in curriculums in the Ontario School Board now for grade 6, 8, and 10. And I want to thank you for your time and consideration. And in regards to the flag, I'm going to be leaving it, if it's approved, with my son's cousin who lives right in Huntsville, so that every year we can get it to you, and that part of it will be easy. So thank you very much for listening to my deposition.
Sheila, thank you very much for being here and for your deputation. And representing Home Children Canada. I have to say, the package that you sent, the information in there was extraordinary. And while I had heard of the foundation before, this was so detailed, and certainly the reference to our area was, in fact, quite moving to read it. So it goes absolutely without saying, I wholeheartedly support what you're requesting of us. It makes all the sense in the world. But I will say, we have a member of our staff who will be presenting a report a little bit later in the meeting. But I just want to say thank you for being here. Councillor Morrison.
Thank you, Mayor Alcock. Sheila, first of all, your passion for this is infectious and really inspiring. I must say you made me aware of something I wasn't aware of, and it's not something I'm happy to know existed, but it's something we need to know existed. And I'm actually going to be out in Sydney next week, next to the world's largest fiddle. So that's where my family is from. So thank you, fully support what you're doing, but also what you're doing for the families is immeasurable. I just have a question. When you mentioned the number of people that came to Huntsville, it seems like an inordinately high number of people for such a small town at the time, if there was only 100,000 in the whole country. Does it seem like that number seems like a lot of people? Is that correct? Like, that's a
Yes,
lot.
Dr. Bernardo. It was Muskoka as well. So a lot went to Aspen as well. And they're buried in the Hutchison Cemetery. I'll be profiling a couple of the Aspen ones. That 3,000 would encompass Muskoka, but Huntsville, Brunel Township, Stevenson, Stisted, it's all part of your wards. And that's where Dr. Bernardo, one of the main sending organizations, he truly favored Muskoka. And I've been so surprised in my research just how many more I find. And they may not, some of them, like my friend's grandpa, he didn't stay here. He ended up going down Tilsonburg, like in the peach area, the fruit, and working on those farms. But like in the case of my son's great grandma, there's still generations living and supporting your area. So there was an inordinate amount sent to the Huntsville area with all those neighboring townships.
A follow-up?
I guess just the last follow-up to that, if whether it be yourself, Sheila, or someone else, if we do the flag raising, if those people are comfortable, it'd be great to invite all family members that are descendants of the home children situation, if they're comfortable being there, because be nice to acknowledge them.
Oh, absolutely. I know one of the Aspen children I'm featuring, both his daughter and his son are coming. And my son's, a few of my son's cousins of the Jennings will be there. And I've got another couple, Joseph Macaulay's daughter or granddaughter, who lives right in Huntsville, is hoping to come as well. So we absolutely can get some descendants there to be there for the flag raising, and really appreciate this so much. Thank you.
It sounds like Sheila's on it, I have to say. Councillor Clark.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Alcock, and thanks, Sheila, for your deputation. My wife's grandfather was actually a British Homes child, so there's a lot of history that on my wife's side to do with that. And there are many families that were a part of that time in history that have connections to Huntsville, so I'm certainly happy to support your request.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
All right, I don't see any other. So as I said, Sheila, we have a staff report in about 20 minutes dealing with this request,
Okay.
but it sounds like you have all of the support you need around this table. So thank you again.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Mayor and Council, so much. We so appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right,
Thank
so
you.
we are going to.
I'll leave now.
Okay, okay, okay. All right, okay, I think we can move now to council minutes, and I do have a motion moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Morrison. Be it resolved that the following council meeting minutes be adopted as printed and circulated. Regular Council, June 22nd, 2026, and Planning Council, July 15th, 2026. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? That carries. Okay. Okay, so we're moving to reports from committees. Starting with the Huntsville Public Library Board, we do have a set of minutes from May 1st, 2026. Councillor Cluche, would you like to?
Through you, Chair, as written, there hasn't been,
Okay.
we missed a couple meetings there
Right.
because of short people not around and stuff like that, but we are getting back on track here shortly.
Right on. That's great. Are there any questions? I don't see any, so we'll move to the Downtown Huntsville BIA. We have minutes from June 11th. Councillor Renwick, anything to add from that?
Thank you, Your Worship. No, nothing to add. The minutes are there for your reading pleasure. The only thing I want to just add, and it's sort of in the minutes, but it's just a reminder of the market that happens every Sunday. And I think we talk about it in the minutes as well, but it's an amazing market. If you have a chance on Sunday to go check it out. So that's the BIA doing that.
It is I'm so glad you said it. I just think it's such a great addition to our weekend activity in downtown, and they are really rocking it. So thank you for mentioning that. I don't see any questions around that, so we'll move to the Huntsville Lake of Bays Chamber of Commerce. We have minutes from May 29th. Councillor Clark, anything to add?
Nothing to add, Mayor Alcock, thanks.
Okay, and I don't see any questions with respect to that, so we'll move to Huntsville Municipal Accommodation Tax Association, May 26th, June 26th, both. Councillor Morrison, anything to speak to?
Yeah, exciting times at HMATA. Just a lot of amazing good work still going on. The only thing to highlight is that we did receive a grant for $55,000 towards the Forest of Light at Sandhill Nurseries, which is being matched by Sandhill Nurseries. So a total of $110,000 will be paid on upgrading that already unbelievable feature. So stay tuned. This winter will be even better than last. Be good.
Hard to imagine. It was spectacular. Did you have your hand up, Councillor Renwick?
I did, Your Worship. And if I may ask a question just about the first set of minutes that came through, and I did mention this to Councillor Morrison ahead of time. There was a $90,000 Ontario Winter Games Legacy Fund, and they are taking applications for people to use the fund. But my question to Councillor Morrison was, what is the criteria in order to apply for that funding, the $90,000?
Great question. Councillor Morrison.
Yeah, and I thank Councillor Renwick for preparing me early on that one. That's good. No, but I did have the answer. It's really exciting that we have that much money as a legacy, and the province does mandate a bit of where it goes. So the applications, I believe, opened on July 1st, I believe, going through till the 19th of August. There'll be a weighting system, and the weighting will be heavily skewed towards 55 plus activities. winter activities and tourism-based activities. So as the applications come in, we formed a committee that'll review them all, and those with that weighting will get the most consideration. But if you're a community group, I would apply regardless if you have needs, because depending on the number of applications, you might have to go to some secondary groups.
Great. Appreciate that. Great question, great response. All right. I don't see any other, so I am going to move to reports for adoption. I have a motion moved by Councillor Fitzgerald, seconded by Councillor Schumacher. Be it resolved that the General Committee meeting minutes dated June 24th, 2026, and the recommendations contained therein be adopted as printed and circulated. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? That carries. Okay. So, moving to reports from municipal officers, and indeed, as we mentioned earlier, we're starting with report number Corp 2026-39, the Home Children Canada Flag Raising Clock Tower Lighting Request. And I have a motion moved by Councillor Renwick, seconded by Councillor Morrison. Be it resolved that Council approve the request from Home Children Canada to amend the Appendix 2 of the Town of Huntsville Flag Protocol and Clock Tower Lighting Policy to add Home Children Canada to the list of pre-approved organizations. And I see we're joined by Tracy. Over to you.
Thank you. Good evening. Through you, Chair. Staff have reviewed the applications submitted by Home Children Canada. As you are aware, the current policy outlines the criteria for use for the community flagpole and the illumination of the clock tower. As noted in my report, the request meets one of the 6 criteria identified within the policy, specifically section 1.1C, in support of public awareness campaigns. Staff are of the opinion that this application is consistent with the current policy. Also, as noted in my report, while September is a particularly busy month for both flag raisings and clock tower illuminatings, staff are very pleased to accommodate this additional request. Therefore, with your approval, of course, this organization qualifies to be added to the pre-approval list. I'm here for any questions.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you for that report. Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thank you, Worship. Just a very quick one. What color is the clock going to be?
My apologies, through you, Chair. I don't think she's identified yet with me. We were just talking in general that she wanted it lit up. I can get back to you on that.
Just curious, we seem to have covered every color.
Every color imaginable.
So, yeah, exactly. It might be repetitive for something else. Anyway, that's great. Thank you. Are there any other questions? I don't see any, so I'm calling the question. All those in favor? And that carries all the way around. Thanks for the report. Okay. So we are moving to report 8.2. And we are joined by Manager Surratt, who's here on behalf of Jill Jordan. And it is with respect to report number CS 2026-5, Muskoka Heritage Place, Purser's Cabin Platform Footings and Railings Budget Deviation. I do have a motion moved by Councillor Schumacher, seconded by Councillor Cloutier. Be it resolved that Council approve the additional scope of work for the Muskoka Heritage Place, Purser's Cabin Platform Footings and Railing Project as detailed in Report CS 2026-5 at an additional cost of up to $101,500 to be funded as follows. $42,190 from deferred revenue related to cannabis funding received in a previous year, and up to $59,310 from the MHP Capital Reserve. Over to you, Manager Surratt.
Why, thank you, Madam Chair. And I just wanted to say Jill does send her regrets. She would have loved to have been here, but today is one of her scheduled days off, so we wanted to support that. And so, as you mentioned, the purpose of this report is to update you on the capital project that was approved in 2026 for the railings, platform, and footings at Purser's Cabin, and with recommended changes to the scope of work. So staff have been working with Tulloch Engineering and to develop the detailed design drawings for the project. And part of that was a site visit, an initial site visit which determined that the footings of both the cabin and the platform are shifting. And so in order to determine what was going on there, they recommended a geotechnical investigation, which was done to explore the site conditions and the soil composition. And as a result of that, it is being recommended that cement footings be replaced with steel helical piles, and that the cabin footings and bracing be replaced to shore up that asset as well, at an additional cost of $101,500. And that the budget deviation be funded from the Cannabis Reserve and the Muskoka Heritage Place Capital Reserve in the amounts that are in the report. Thank you for your attention, and I'm here if you have any questions.
Thank you for the presentation. I am sure there's going to be a question about one of those reserves, I would think. And I'm going to Councillor Cloutier.
Through you. Good report. Certainly, I'm surprised it's still there. Like, thank God I didn't walk into it. But I'm just wondering, with if we're maybe Councillor Morrison could answer this. Is there any way we can replace some of this money from HMATA on this? I mean, it is a tourist attraction, and if we can, I know it might not happen right away, but eventually, if we can recoup some funds through HMATA for some of this.
Yeah, I can speak to that. It would always be possible to ask HMATA, but I think they're focusing more on marketing and user group requests and tourism initiatives more so than buildings and structures. So I don't think it's likely, but it's definitely something we could ask.
Because it does attract a lot of people, and in their brochure, they can say we can now walk into the cabin because of them.
We can put a mural on it and make it part of the mural wall.
That's right, exactly. So, okay, thank you.
All right, Councillor Stone, followed by Councillor Renwick.
So I'll bite. So the reserve, the MHP reserve, is anticipated to be over $200,000 in deficit. So how is that going to play out in the future? Do we have a future monies coming in the anticipated budget next year, or what?
I think Director Frame would like to
so-
weigh in on that.
Absolutely, through you, Your Worship. So with our asset management plan, there is a financial strategy with respect to rebuilding those capital reserves. So as we contribute every year to all of our capital reserves, and our spending kind of fluctuates year over year. And over the last couple of years, we've had higher spending than contributions, which has contributed to the negative reserve balance. Going forward, though, our anticipation, and I have to chat with MHP and make sure that this is correct. But I think our anticipated spending going forward won't be quite as hefty as it's been. So we'll be able to rebuild that reserve over the next few years.
Just as a follow-up.
Quick follow-up?
So in the meantime, fixing this problem, we're borrowing from one reserve to pay for this. Another reserve that we have, presumably not in the deficit, to pay for this.
Essentially, it's not like we have a separate bank account for each reserve, right? It's one bank account. So it's making sure that the costs related to MHP are getting eventually recorded in that reserve. So yes, we're paying it out of our bank account to pay the costs, but funding it out of this reserve will show that those costs actually related to MHP. We're not funding, an MHP capital repair through the Public Works Reserve, for example.
And we have had higher expenditures related to MHP than we anticipated. So I'm going to Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I was absolutely sure that Councillor Stone would be asking the question that I'm going to ask, but he didn't. You missed that one. I don't know. The Cannabis Reserve. Let's open that one.
Let's just dig into that one.
I believe that may also be Director.
Director Frame, would you like to? I asked that question earlier, so I know the answer, but I found it fascinating. So there we go. Director Frame.
So I'm just frantically in the background trying to remember where this information is as I'm, back into the finance role. So back in 2019, the town received a grant through the Cannabis Legalization Implementation Fund. And we've got $42,190 left in that deferred revenue. So it's grant money that we got in 2019 that's been sitting there waiting to be used. We just needed a project to use it for.
That's great. Thank you. That's what I wanted to know. And let's use it.
Yep. Okay. I think probably were you? Okay. Okay. So let me go over here and then I'll go back. So Deputy Mayor Arm.
Thank you, Worship. I don't know, excuse me, if anybody can answer this question. I'm just curious how we budgeted 100,000, spent 40,000, and now we need another 105 or 101,000. Just how did we lose those numbers off so far in this budgeting process and planning for this?
I think, Jacqueline, would you like
Through-
to weigh into this?
through you,
Because
Madam
this
Chair.
This is a result of the study, right?
Well, yes, the geotechnical study was obviously unplanned for, which is more consulting fees than we would ever estimate for a project such as this. The helical piles are more costly than cement piles, and the shoring the steel shoring is an estimate of $35,000 on top of the original project, and the helical piles that go with that. So it's essentially we're advancing. So I can say that part of this project advances a project in our future, which is 2035, I believe, is that project. The cabin is scheduled for restoration and whatnot in 2035. So in theory, some of that funding is being moved forward and we won't have to do that in the future. So yes, so that's how we got to these numbers, which I'm sad to report.
Follow up.
So I guess the purser's cabin's moving into the 21st century.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. All right, now I'm going back to this side, Councillor Schumer.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Alcock. Yeah, I'm not liking the spend, but I do definitely understand the need for it. And I guess I do not want to be the counselor who has to put on the Grinch suit for Christmas and say no magicated Christmas train this year, because I know there'd be a lot of disappointed children out there. So I'm going to go ahead with this.
Okay, I don't think we have any other, yes, Councillor Clark.
Thanks, Mayor Alcock. So it's, have to say I wasn't aware of a cannabis grant that the town got. So that's interesting. I'm glad that we're able to reallocate that money. So if council approves this, are there grants that could be applied for at some point to recoup the money? So that's the first part of the question. And I guess the second part of the question, Councillor Schumacher mentioned, but so if it's not approved, the Christmas train at MHP would be in jeopardy. So is there any other option for the train to stop if council does not approve the spend?
I am going to Director Frame or Director Babineau. Director Frame.
I can also help
You're on
answer
the-
that question.
Okay. All right.
We do very often look for grants, and we have actually looked for a grant for this project. Unfortunately, it's timing. The fact that it's urgent, I guess, is part of why it's hard to get funding. Funding retroactively is typically, you don't see that very often. So I don't believe there's any grant funding that we can get for this project, unfortunately. In terms of your second question, I just want to understand, can you just explain that a little more?
Well, I'm just wondering if there's any other option for the train to, is there anywhere else where the train can go, or is that the only destination that it?
Jacqueline?
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. Yes, he leaves the station and ends at the purser cabin. The the children and the families leave the station and end at Purser's Cabin, which is magically transformed into Santa's workshop. And I mean, we have been thinking about how we might be able to rework that if we had to. It's very complicated. Maybe reversing the train and having it end at the station, but then the infrastructure, you know, it's not plowed necessarily, and getting people back and forth. I mean, I'm sure if push came to shove, we could find some other way, but it would be very challenging, and operationally it'd be very difficult to work through.
Follow up, Councillor
So
Clark?
it's possible, but difficult.
Okay, appreciate that. And CAO Corey.
Thank you, Worship. So I think, to be very, very blunt, it's actually not possible. So I appreciate that we're trying to look for a solution, but there's only one track, and it starts at one end and ends at another. And to Jacqueline's comments, it would be very difficult to switch it, to get vehicles down that road and have people come the other way. I hate to say, but it's impossible on that existing track.
Okay, well, there's that answer. So I don't see any other questions. I have read the motion and I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So I don't need to say all those, I know. All those opposed? I don't have to ask. No, I didn't have to ask because he put his hand up. I know. Yeah. Oh, all right. So that's why we were looking at you. Yes. All right. I've just called it. It carries. Thank you very much for the report and for the interesting reserve fund, you know, that none of us knew about. So that's great. Thank you. Jillian will be happy. Okay, so we're moving along to 8.3, and I see Director Babineau is joining us. Speaking to report number CS-2026-6, Port Sydney Community Group purchase from Reserve Fund. And I do have a motion moved by Councillor Fitzgerald, seconded by Councillor Schumacher. Be it resolved that Council approve the purchase of 2 refrigerators for the Port Sydney Hall at a cost not to exceed $10,000, and further that the refrigerator purchase costs be funded from the Port Sydney Community Group's Reserve Fund. Director Babineau, over to you.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, Greg sends his regrets. I am here in his place. He has written the report. He knows the information. He has given me as much to be able to answer as many questions as possible. I am here to answer any questions. The reserve fund is something that we need to come and ask permission to remove from the account for the group, and it's important to replace the refrigerators before the Thanksgiving events.
Okay, short and sweet. I'm going to Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Worship. I have the pleasure of being involved in all these events, or a lot of the events that go on at the hall, and do pull some kitchen time there. The fridges are quite old. One was donated, and it's a bit of a safety risk. Shelving's falling out of it, so we need it for our larger events there that we're holding. For safety, for food safety. One of the fridges is tripping a breaker constantly, so I'm worried about issues at the hall. Just want everyone to know that these funds have been raised by the Parks and Rec group, and when we changed the operation of the hall, as in the report, that the group used to operate the hall and run the hall and transferred it back to the town, but all those funds that are in there reserved have been raised one hamburger or hot dog at a time by the Parks and Rec people. So we're really spending their money, and I think it's a wise spend, and it eliminates the municipality from spending the money. So I hope everyone supports it.
Thank you for that. Are there any other questions or comments about this? I don't see any, so I'm calling the question. All those in favor? And that carries all the way around. Thank you very much for that update on the report. Okay, so moving to, yes, thank you. All right, so we're moving to report 8.4, and David Zilke is joining us for this report, the next report, and the next report after that. The first one is for information only, and it's Report Development 2026-69, Funding Opportunities to Support Facility Energy Audits and Retrofit Planning, Update number 1. Before you start, and council should know that this is the last time David will be before us, as he's accepted a job elsewhere. And you will be missed. But I shouldn't digress. I already have. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Mayor, and good evening, Council, and through you, Mayor. Yes, the first of my gauntlet of reports here this evening. Good news story on the funding opportunities that we applied for to support facility energy audits and retrofit planning for our facilities. So we talked about in a previous report to council about how this is really the next step in implementing our corporate climate change mitigation plan, to understanding our energy use and planning for ways to help transition away from using as much, to help save some money on our hydro bills, for example, natural gas bills, all of that, but also looking at more renewable sources and the sort of diversion away from fossil fuels in line with our goals to become net zero by 2050. 2 of these funding applications, so there was one to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities and another one to the Canadian Urban Institute, both of which I'm happy to report were successful. The Canadian Urban Institute project is through the Climate Ready Infrastructure Service. This is a service that provides expert support to municipalities under, I believe it's 30,000 or under 50,000 people looking to do any sort of environmental project focused around municipal assets. And so this is being done at no cost to the municipality, and we've focused our application on the Utterson Community Hall with the goal of conducting an energy audit and facility retrofit capital plan for that hall. This is underway. The consultants that we're working with have already come up and conducted the audit, and they've provided a draft report that staff are now working through to sort of provide feedback on, and then eventually integrate into the capital planning process. The second award was through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. This is a larger amount of funding for $150,000 that will cover 80% of the cost of conducting these audits at an additional 7 facilities. Still sort of working out exactly what those facilities will be, and that will be an ongoing project as we look towards the fall. But it will include some of the larger facilities like the Summit Center, Civic Center, and a couple of other community buildings for sure. This grant, like I said, provides 80% of the funding to support that. It leaves the cost of the township of $35,000 plus non-refundable HST that we are proposed in the previous report to be paid from the facilities reserve in 2027 and 2028. So that will be provided to council through the budgeting process in the future. And I will just note that we are going to continue to apply for stackable funding through other climate related offers to be able to hopefully reduce that cost even farther. Happy to take any questions on this.
That's great, and it's so nice to see the success of writing these applications and getting them, so that's tremendous. Are there any questions with respect to this? Yes, Councillor Schumacher.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Alcock, to David. So with the Utterson Hall one, just out of curiosity, it covers the expert consultation, and then you guys are going to build a plan, but it won't cover any of the fixes, say new windows, any of that kind of stuff.
Correct. Through you, Mayor. It won't cover those fixes, but what it will do is identify which fixes are going to have the best return on investment. So those that will see our energy costs be reduced most substantially. So we can choose to prioritize those as we start to sort of look forward. So there might even be some in which they would be a net positive as far as the amount of money we could save on hydro and energy costs.
And then would tabulating that type of report, follow up, That hall turns, as I've probably mentioned a few times, and most of you have heard this from me, hall turns 150 in 2028. So I know there are possibility for some infrastructure grants and that around that anniversary date. Could those be worked into, say, some of those asks?
Yeah, through you, Mayor. Absolutely. And really what's great about these plans is that they provide us with an opportunity to show that we've done the planning, we've done the thinking about what it is we want to do, and really gives staff something to sink their teeth into for those capital project grants like what you're talking about now. As far as timing, I'm expecting this report to be delivered this fall. And the draft that I've seen already has the energy audit completed, some modeling completed, and now staff are working collaboratively with the consultants to really flesh out what those retrofit scenarios and pathways will look like. So there's input on both sides into it. And the hope is that at the end, this will be a document that can be pulled into that capital planning process where we can identify those grants like you're talking about in line with that 150 anniversary.
Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thanks, Your Worship, and thanks, David, for the report. We had energy audits done previously, and maybe Director Babineau has a better memory than I do, but I think we realized significant savings our last energy audit at some of our facilities. Am I mistaken there? Or
Director Babineau?
Lights throughout facilities and some energy updates?
Right. Through you, Madam Chair, I think we did, and it was the lights project like you're talking about,
Yeah.
and we did track quite a bit of information and had to submit that back in. So I do think that was significant. I don't remember off the top of my head.
I
any
just
of the
remember
numbers.
seeing very positive numbers
yeah.
after the implementation of the audit. So I'm happy to see that some of our facilities are going to get audited, and maybe we'll get some insulation in some of them.
Wouldn't that be great?
Mhm.
No. And the timing on that, on the larger facilities, you said it starts this fall.
Yes. So the idea is that as far as next steps go, we would be entering into an agreement with FCM to accept the funding. And that sort of starts the clock, but they have a hard deadline of January 1st, 2029 as being when all these audits and reports have to be completed. So there is some time and some flexibility there. So the idea would be that once that agreement is entered into, staff would then look to go out to procure a qualified energy engineering consultancy. As far as the details of that process, I can't really speak to it, but I will note that we have been working with a group. They supported our application with technical advice for the funding application. They're doing this initial energy audit that is funded through the Canadian Urban Institute as sort of a way for us to understand their process and the quality of their work and to vet that as well. And so I will leave that to the very capable hands of whoever fills this role moving forward in partnership with our Director of Finance.
Thank you for that. Okay, I'm not seeing any other hands, so we're going to move to agenda item 2 with David. I do have a motion. It is with respect to Report Development 2026-70 Macaulay Robertson Sports Complex Lease Agreement for EV Chargers. And so I do have a motion moved by Councillor Morrison, seconded by Councillor Clark, whereas the installation of accessible EV charging infrastructure is critical for the adoption of EVs and the transition away from fossil fuel burning transportation, and whereas Lakeland Solutions, formerly named Bracebridge Generation Limited, applied for funding to install EV charging infrastructure at Macaulay Robertson Sports Complex at no cost to the town, and were successful in this application. Now therefore be it resolved that staff be directed to develop a site lease agreement to allow for the installation of the EV charging infrastructure by Lakeland Solutions. And further that notwithstanding leasing policy development 12, due to extenuating circumstances, staff be directed to offer the lease for nominal consideration. And further that the Director of Development Services be authorized to sign the agreement and any other amending agreements or reporting required as part of the project. With that, back to you, Mr. Zilke.
Thank you, Mayor. And so just to elaborate on a couple of points there that you listed in the motion. So Lakeland actually did apply for funding at 2 locations, just as a reminder from our previous report. The first was at the Canada Summit Center, and that application was unsuccessful. They are intending to go reapply to a different funding opportunity offered by National Resources Canada later this fall. So that project may still look to proceed, but not on the sort of immediate time horizon. It was the second application to Macaulay Robertson Sports Complex that was successful. Staff have been working with Lakeland to confirm the exact install location, which is attached to the report and should be in your agenda package. The intention for Lakeland is to complete the civil and electrical engineering work that's required to do this installation starting in November of 2026, following the peak summer and fall sports period at Macaulay Robertson. And as the mayor mentioned, this installation would be completed at no cost to the town. And so for that to proceed, staff need direction to be able to enter into the lease agreement with Lakeland Solutions, which is what we're here for today. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, are there any, yes, Councillor Clark.
Thanks. Thanks, Mayor Alcock. Thanks, David, for your report, and you had me at no cost to the town. I guess I noticed on the drawings that it looks like there's that these units will have lights on them. So I'm just wondering what are those lights going to look like? There's been some questions about lighting and lack of lighting down in those areas. So I'm just wondering what those lights would look like on those EV chargers.
David.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. That's a great question. I can't speak to the exact design of the lights and how large they're going to be, only that there will be, I believe it's 2 that are there in the design. The idea is to improve safety for users that are accessing those charging areas. So I don't anticipate that they would cover that entire parking lot, but that is a discussion that could be had with Lakeland about what the sort of options are to be able to increase the amount of lighting in that area, should that be something that council were to desire. With anything like this, when we're starting to do electrical and civil work, it's easier to do it once rather than multiple times, certainly. So there may be an opportunity there to discuss that if that was something that council wanted to do.
A follow-up.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Alcock. I think it's worth having a conversation because there's going to be, it'd be a benefit to them as well to have the area safe to use. So it's worth having a conversation with them about.
I agree. I think that's a great suggestion, and I'm sure that is so noted. So thank you for that. Are there any other questions with respect to this? Okay. I think Councillor Fitzgerald, followed by Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thanks, Your Worship. Thanks again, David. A nominal fee, that I'm curious what that is, but I know a lot of other communities are doing revenue sharing with partners for these chargers, and I wonder if we've ever gone down that avenue and actually put it through the test to see if it's a more viable route to take.
I'm just sorry. My apologies. I was just thinking. I know this was identified in the note that we are a shareholder of Lakeland. So are you suggesting that we look at revenue sharing with respect to?
Well, I think most other communities are doing revenue sharing, and if we're not doing revenue sharing, then our percentage of money generated from the EVs in our community are being shared with the other shareholders. So I'm wondering which avenue is more beneficial to Huntsville's bottom line.
I think we can take that back.
I don't expect anyone to be able to answer that
that
question
right now. So you're just
I mean,
putting it forward as something that we ought to be.
And I think we've had this discussion every time this come up, and when it first arrived,
With the high
we were
street.
putting in EV chargers. I just wonder if we've gone down that road and compared which is more beneficial to Huntsville in our budget.
I think I will turn this to CAO Corey to see if in fact any of that analysis has happened.
Thank you, Worship. So what I can speak to regarding the EV chargers is we can't lose sight of the investment that is put into the infrastructure that provides an added benefit within our community. So I can definitely follow up with Lakeland regarding the cost sharing, or sorry, the revenue generation. But I think the belief is when Lakeland does it and invests the money into the infrastructure to give the community the benefit, that's a little bit of a wash in that regard. And the fact that we're actually shareholders getting, I think we're 23% at this point. Again, we're collecting funds. I do understand your question though, Councillor Fitzgerald, and I can circle back with Lakeland.
You have a follow-up?
Yeah, thank you, Worship. I guess the answer I'm looking for is that we discuss with our surrounding communities and people that have done cost sharing and is there benefits, and
we can do that.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Deputy Mayor Armour.
I think I know the answer to this, but I just want to ensure that once these are installed, belong to Lakeland, and they're totally responsible for them and any damage that may happen to them.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. Yes, that is the intent.
Okay, I don't see any other questions, so thank you for the suggestions, and we have noted both. So I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? And that carries unanimously. Thank you for that. We are now moving to David's third report, which is the one that I am most excited by. And it is with respect to report number development 2026-71, the proposed Muskoka River Watershed Staff Working Group Accord. And I do have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Armour, seconded by Councillor Renwick. Whereas management of the Muskoka River watershed requires coordination among regional and local municipalities, First Nations, and Indigenous peoples, the provincial government, and environmental interest holders. Now therefore be it resolved that Council endorse the Muskoka River Watershed Staff Working Group Accord, and further that the Mayor and Clerk be authorized to sign the Muskoka River Watershed Staff Working Group Accord, and further that Council directs staff to continue participating in the staff working group to advance integrated watershed management of the Muskoka River watershed. Over to you, David.
Thank you, Mayor. And through you, I must admit I'm also very excited about this report for a number of reasons, but one of them being that my first report ever to this council was about integrated watershed management. So it does feel that we've come very full circle here with this being my final report. Integrated watershed management, just as a reminder, is a modern approach to environmental management. It seeks to integrate information and a decision-making process that spans across jurisdictions to achieve collective watershed-wide goals. We know that the environment, and water in particular, does not respect political boundaries. Movement across townships, area municipalities, regional municipalities, the entire province, all of this happens irrespective of the lines that we draw on a map when it comes to defining a town or a province. IWM in particular is a collaborative effort among municipal and provincial staff, First Nations, nonprofit and charitable organizations, local businesses, and other rights and interest holders as they declare themselves. To date, staff have participated in a number of events related to integrated watershed management, including a conference that was hosted by the Muskoka Watershed Council, the co-hosting of a leadership workshop here in town geared towards local government and First Nations, and then reported back to council on the results of that for continued direction to participate in IWM events, all with the intent of signing on to a memorandum of understanding or an accord or something similar with respect to developing integrated watershed management for the Muskoka River watershed. Following this direction, staff participated in a half-day workshop back in January that was hosted by and led by the District of Muskoka. This served as sort of the inaugural first meeting of the Integrated Watershed Management Staff Working Group. We saw representatives from municipalities, provincial agencies, First Nations, and the Muskoka Watershed Council all come together to develop the accord that is attached to this report in your agenda package. That really seeks to outline the staff working group's purpose, our guiding principles, and the scope of this collaboration moving forward. This accord was drafted and it was revised with input from all members that were in attendance that day, and it's attached here for your review. Staff are requesting that council reaffirm their commitment to integrated watershed management and sign on to this accord, notably as the first area municipality to do so. So really setting that standard, the hope that others will sign on and join in this effort that we expect will begin in fall 2026, fall, winter 2026, depending on timing. Happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you for that. And I should note, this is really interesting that this is your last report on your last day of work. And just as you said, this was your first report when you first joined. But I should note that David's leaving us to go to the district to manage the district watershed management program, and which includes this amongst many others. And so they scooped them from us, let's be honest. But that's because of all of the good work that went into this, and I just think this is brilliant, so thank you for that. With that, are there questions from council? Yes, Councillor Stone.
Not a question, but I think it should be noted that the Muskoka Watershed Council is having a meeting here in Huntsville on Tuesday, August 11, from 6:30 to 9, for people that are interested in this.
I think that was in our announcement session, but thank you for doing that. That's great. Yes, because it will be all about this. Are there any other questions before I call the question?
Just a comment from me, which is to say that I'm very much going to miss being able to sit around this table and speak to all of you. It's been a true honor serving this community, and to bring this report as the final one feels pretty special. So thank you all.
Thank you. So I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? And that carries unanimously. David, good luck. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll see you soon, I'm sure.
Oh, yes. It's 10 after 7. So could we please take a 10-minute break, a bio break? All right. Thank you. Thanks, Max. All right, we're back. Thank you for allowing us the break. And we are moving to report 8.7. We are joined by Michael and Reva with respect to report number OPS-2026-12 on the Huntsville Transit Expansion and Optimization Update number 2. And I do have a very long motion. I'm assuming council would be okay if I waived the reading of it, but it was moved by Councillor Stone, seconded by Councillor Fitzgerald. And it is with respect to the report that I just stated, and it is exactly as it was in our agenda package. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you two to provide the update.
Thank you, Mayor Alcock. So through you, just to provide a quick little synopsis on the staff report. So last year in July, the Transit Expansion and Optimization 3-phase plan was approved by Council. And since then, the implementation originally slated for July 1st, 2026 was pushed back to October 1st. Because at that point, we didn't have the buses yet, and we needed a little bit of time to be able to do the implementation. We are in front of you today because it was noted through our conversations with our service provider for the transit system that we don't currently have the authority to sign the updated transit agreement for this expansion. So it's really just requesting that the Director of Operations be able to execute the updated transit agreement. The other piece of it, and this update really provides sort of an update to phase 1 of the plan. So it doesn't include anything with the DRT, the District Response Transit. And the phase 3 was, the implementation of infrastructure, so bus stops and shelters and that kind of thing. This is really just focusing on phase 1. What do we plan on sort of launching with in respect of the expansion for October 1st of this year. So the buses are in, and we've done a branding exercise to make sort of the transit system a little bit more cohesive, a little bit more, recognizable in our community, to tie it into our community, both our community brand and our corporate brand. It's kind of a marriage of the two branding. And the only real change from what was presented last year in July was that we've paused, not canceled, but paused the implementation of the electronic transit fare system. So that's like the card system, cash-free system. And really the reason for that is we've got a lot of things going on with this expansion. We're expanding hours, we're expanding stops, we're adding buses, we're doing branding, we're doing all kinds of things. So until we see what happens with the ridership, we thought it was prudent to just pause on this piece until we can see what happens with the ridership numbers, how much is it actually going to increase, and does it make sense to commit to, the annual cost of that subscription for the electronic system. It also gives us time to do some engagement with the transit users to see, is this something that they actually want, going to more of a cashless system. So that, in a nutshell, is what this report is.
Thank you for that. Are there questions? Yes, Councillor Stone.
Thank you very much. So I was surprised and a little disappointed to see this report come because I was chair of the Active Transportation and Public Transit Committee at the beginning of this term. During that whole year, we had many, many discussions about the routes, the destinations, accessible stops and shelters, where a transit hub could or should be. And all of those discussions weren't written down. The committee had discussions, and that's why we struck the committee. So I'm pleased to say that, having spoken to staff earlier today, that I will be involved in the discussions going forward about the different routes and destinations for these buses. So I can articulate what the committee said back then to staff. So that's my first point, and I'm happy to move forward with this. The other thing I want to mention is the logo. I'm not that jazzed about this logo. And last term, we actually paid a lot of money for this wonderful, colorful, fun Huntsville logo. And I think this one should be used. We already have it all. I hope we didn't pay much or anything for what we saw in the package, but we already have it. So I suggest we should use it. This report does not go forward with the logo, I presume, at this point. Is that true?
So through you, Mayor Alcock,
Yep.
so the branding has been completed, and this was the final product essentially.
Is the final product in here?
Yeah, and would be incorporated into the signage. And just to respond to the comment about the community brand. So the community brand is more of a placemaking. So it's meant to identify like the I Love New York brand type of thing, right? It's placemaking. It's Huntsville as a place. The transit brand is the actual program and the transit system within Huntsville. So it's actually the brand that's in the package is actually sort of combining that the community branded logo with our corporate brand, because it's a corporate program that the town of Huntsville runs as a corporation, like as a business. And that's why we were trying to keep it separate. So that brand is more for placemaking, that's for tourism and that kind of thing. So it's a different purpose behind the brand.
If I may jump in, I think the font is the same in both, right? Because if you look at Huntsville on the logo proposed for the bus, I believe that font is the same as what is proposed in the community brand. So as you said, there's a bit of both in there, as I understand it. Councillor Stone, follow up.
Oh, I disagree. So in the logo that we approved, the U and the N were actually conjoined in our logo. And I don't see that it's a problem having community partners use this logo and our bus and many other things. So anyone visiting would see that this is the place. So if anyone else would agree, then perhaps we can put a motion on the floor to either pause the logo for a discussion or change it.
Okay, I think a proposal to pause or further discussion on that, but I am going to look to Councillor Renwick and followed by Councillor Morrison.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I would second that. When I looked at I didn't realize either that the logo was going to be, that it was finished. I understand the Huntsville word does look like it, but it's not exactly like the initial. I agree. I think the colors that are in the community brand are something that's exciting. It's something that's already established. I don't know what is the logo that's next to the word transit. Like, what is that supposed to represent? It's a bird. It's a bird? A what, sorry?
Sorry, through you, Mayor Alcock. So I believe the explanation of the logo was actually in the report.
Oh, sorry that I missed it.
I have to confess, I looked for that too, the explanation. I wasn't sure I saw it. But
sorry,
again,
it's in the accessibility
I think
report.
with Councillor Renwick seconding this particular motion, I am going, okay, yes, Councillor Frame, Director Frame.
So through you, Mayor Alcock. So part of the timing of the implementation of the expansion and all of that stuff was to wrap the buses and get the signage done and everything with the branding prior to the October 1st launch date. So if we pause that, then we're not going to have everything ready for October 1st. Just wanted to be clear on that.
Okay, so noted. I'm going to Councillor Morrison and then followed by Councillor Clark and Councillor Cluche.
Yeah, I might have a bit of a different take on the logo. Like I remember when their branding was launched, it wasn't just that colorful logo. It was a series of branding items that would be on shirts and hats, and it wasn't always going to be the same, but the font was similar. And at first, when I first saw it, it took me a minute, and then I realized it was a bird. And then once I saw it on the bus, I'm like, okay, I get it. It kind of makes sense. So I kind of like it. And maybe the U in the end should be joined. That'd be the only thing I would consider. But personally, I think if it's consistent on the buses, and maybe if those two things are done, it still does have a similar vibe, and it does come from that branding exercise. So that's kind of my take on it.
Appreciate those comments. And I'm forgetting, I think I was going to Councillor Clark next, and then thank you, Councillor Cluche, for pointing it out, to Councillor Fitzgerald, and followed by Councillor Cluche. No. Oh, to you next. Okay. All right. Yeah, I know. Councillor Clark.
Okay, thanks, Mayor Alcock, and thanks, Reva, for the report. I'm more concerned about the big number of 368,000 in the draft mayor's budget for 27 than I am about the colors. That's a big number that will be a factor in 2027, and I hope that number will not continue to jump higher as this project continues to finalize and roll out. That's a concern I have.
Okay, appreciate it. Councillor Cluche.
Through you, Chair. I agree with Councillor Clark, but as far as the logo goes, I'm not that big on, not that intelligent on logos and everything, but I have logoed a lot of business stuff that I've owned. And what you want specific of what you're doing and what you're doing. And the word transit jumps out. That's their main thing. It's the word transit. You can take the bird to be a bird or whatever, any type of animal you want it to be, or a turtle. It doesn't matter. The Huntsville thing, we all know it's Huntsville Transit because it's in Huntsville. The bus isn't driving around Bracebridge. So I don't think that's a really big concern. If you want to attach the U and the N, be fine. But the word transit, that's what people want. They want to know that that's the transit bus, that it's not a school bus or a Fairburn bus or anything. It is a transit bus. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I am going to Deputy Mayor Armour, and then I will go to you, CAO Corey. Okay, Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thanks very much, Your Worship. I actually was going to go to see Corey and ask her a question. Did we, if I remember correctly, I believe that Manager Spolnek came here and brought this transit diagram to us, and we looked at it here months ago and voted on this. Was it on a year ago or so? I think it was brought to us. There's something like that, I remember.
Oh, now I will turn to CAO Corey. Now we're testing her.
I remember, Greg. Thank you very much, Your Worship. So to Deputy Mayor Armour's question, I don't believe the actual transit logo has come. I absolutely see the value that Councillor Stone had noted about making sure the consistency of Huntsville is carried through, and that is no problem. We can make that change. So we can change the Huntsville so that it matches. There is, I do feel that it's important to have that separate function identified, such as transit. I actually didn't think it was a bird. To me, it looked like links that were crossing, which is what our transit does. So perhaps Ms. Frame can clarify that, but that's how I interpreted the logo. But to ensure consistency between the town and the operations for transit, we can absolutely change the Huntsville the way it's matching the branding. That's no problem. If I can just follow up on the other comment that Councillor Stone had with respect to the decisions of the active transportation. So February 12th of 2024, when all of the committees were winding up, there were reports back. At that time, it was Trevor Donald, who was the project coordinator. He did report back on all the closing out of all the committees. And part of that one with the active transportation and transit was there was a schedule that was attached to it, which actually outlined the list of priority recommendations, and it had short, medium, and long term. So staff would have taken that information when they were working on the transit project, looking at where the transit stops were to go based on ridership, and they would have developed that. We are absolutely happy to follow up with Councillor Stone about the decisions that are being made, and we've had those conversations with the contractor, and just to show you what we've done. So that's no problem. We'd be happy to follow up with Councillor Stone as the previous chair of that committee.
Great. Director Frame?
Yeah, so to elaborate on the question about the visual identity and the bird, so there actually is, and sorry, I misspoke earlier, this information is actually included in the accessibility report that's going forward to Accessibility Committee tomorrow. So the visual identity for the Huntsville Transit was inspired by the community's commitment to sustainability, connectivity, and growth. Drawing from the town's established color palette, the brand reflects a strong municipal connection while creating a distinct and recognizable presence for transit. Migratory bird theme was explored as a symbol of movement, journey, and community connection, while street patterns, pathways, and transit-inspired forms were also incorporated to reinforce the role of transit in linking people and places. Together, these design elements create a modern, highly recognizable bird icon, an identity that reflects Huntsville's environmentally conscious values and supports the future evolution of the transit system. So that's the explanation of how we got to that symbol.
Thank you for that. I am going to weigh in just to say I appreciate the comment about updating the word Huntsville so it's consistent. I think that would be great. I'm a bit like Councillor Morrison and Cluche. I like the simplicity. When I first looked at this, I thought, oh, similar to Councillor Stone. Oh, it's not exactly the same. But as was highlighted, when we did the branding, it was to be used in different ways, right? And for our transit system, it pops on the screen, right? And that's what it should do. It should be simple, easily identified, and I do like the explanation about the symbol itself. So personally, I like it, and I would hate to see it delayed if we want an October 1st start. So Councillor Schumacher.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Alcock. And I guess as the one person who did get the report with the brand definition on it, I thought it was great. And I do appreciate it's coming to accessibility because of the accessibility component, which you guys have covered all of, which I'm quite happy about. And to Councillor Armour, it was when we redid the branding of the actual like Huntsville logo that Lisa came and talked about that you don't want too many colors on things because that is hard to replicate. So although we have the colorful logo for clothing and stuff, it is more difficult when it comes to signage and for things like that to have a very colorful logo. So the idea that I appreciate was keeping the Huntsville very much within the color palette of the blues and that we are doing, but keeping it simple enough that everybody can recognize that. So I am in agreement to try to keep the Huntsville that way, but I'm okay with it just being one color and very consistent.
Thank you for that explanation and the comments. I'm going to Councillor Stone.
Thank you. So when we did get this logo, it did come in full color. It also came in one color and showed us how it would look as black or white. It doesn't appear like we have enough people to change what's in front of us, so I'm happy to remove it.
Thank you. And Councillor Renwick?
Thank you, Your Worship, and I would agree with Councillor Stone. I would withdraw my my motion, but I would, the fact that Director Frame gave us the explanation, that was what, I didn't have that. So the fact that now that I've read it or listened to it makes a big difference, and I do appreciate the work that's gone into that. But I would like to sort of echo what Councillor Stone said about the, you know, the Huntsville having the wording changed, and then not to make light. I mean, obviously this is a visual thing, but what Councillor Clark said about the fact that it's $368,000 to run this on the levy. That's a very important fact as well. So that's not overlooked. Yes. Thank
Right. True. Okay, I'm going to Director Frame, and then I will go to Councillor Fitzgerald.
So just to speak to the financial component. So last year when this report was brought forward, the expansion was noted at being $351,000. And this is really just updating dates and rates and all of that now that we have the transit agreement sort of in the works. With respect to, you know, the intention in 2027 would be that it would be included in the levy, and the intention hopefully is that it doesn't increase year after year. We do get a provincial grant related to transit. That grant is quite complicated in how it's figured out. Yes, it is based on ridership, but it's based on proportional ridership across the province. So if our ridership goes up for our transit system, you would expect that our grant would go up. But if ridership goes up in other Ontario municipalities, it may level out and we might not see an increase. So at this point, and that is really hard to predict what every other Ontario municipality is going to do. So our financial analysis does include a relatively modest increase in the grant. I'm hoping that, you know, our ridership increase is proportionately a lot bigger than everybody else's. So we get a bigger piece of the pie, essentially. But until that reporting is done, we don't really know what's going to happen with that grant. And the grant is calculated a year after the fact, right? So it lags a year.
So thank you for the explanation, but it is likely that our ridership should increase at a greater percentage, as you say, compared to all of the others, because we're increasing the service. We're quite substantially increasing the service. So I would think that we should be hopeful on that grant. I would hope. I am now going to Councillor Fitzgerald, I think.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's all becoming clear. I just wondered, in the operating financial analysis, if we would included the numbers with our service provider from operating from July 1st or starting October 1st.
Director Frame.
Through you, Mayor Alcock, I included October 1st in our financial analysis, starting October 1st, 2026.
Do we engage in a contract with that service provider, and is he going to request money from July 1st somewhere from us down the road, perhaps?
Mr. Perniak.
I don't think I could speak to that, but we had a meeting with the service provider a few weeks back, and there wasn't any indication of that. So
We did enter into a contract for service from July 1st originally.
But that was, Director Frame.
Yeah, so through you, Mayor Alcock. So no, we didn't enter into a contract for expanded services from July 1st. I think it was at the end of May, council decided to push the expansion date to October 1st. So the financial analysis is based on that October 1st date. So it's kind of status quo until October 1st, and then we'll enter into the expansion.
So we have no financial obligation to him for the July 1st date?
No.
Not for the expanded service, just for our existing service.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Clerk Kalea. The motion was withdrawn.
So, correct, Mayor Alcock, but then Councillor Renwick said that the wording would be similar after she withdrew it. So,
But that was, the CAO's, Corey made reference to that and said that that could be done. I can't imagine we need to amend our existing motion in order to make sure that the word Huntsville is consistent with our current logo. And I think, Director Frame, that was doable, right? Do we need to amend the No.
No, so through you, Mayor Alcock, I think I've got direction to be able to chat with my staff and update the branding to ensure that the Huntsville part of the Huntsville Transit logo reflects our community brand a little bit closer.
Right. Okay. Satisfied? I'm satisfied, but as long as Director Frame is satisfied, and she's given me the thumbs up. Okay, Councillor Schumacher?
Just one last question, because again, yeah, we're talking that amount of funding that's going forward on the levy. So you said about provincial funding, is that through that gas tax, or is that another option over and above? That is the same one you're talking about.
Director Frame?
Yeah, so through you, Mayor Alcock, it's the provincial gas tax funding that we get annually.
With that, everybody has read the motion, and I am going to call the question. All those in favor? And that carries unanimously. Holy cow. Thank you very much. Thank you for that report. A lot of work went into that. It does. It totally makes sense. Okay, everybody, we are now moving into bylaws. And I have a motion moved by Councillor Fitzgerald, seconded by Councillor Renwick. Be it resolved that bylaw numbers 2026-59 to 2026-69 be reported and passed this 27th day of July 2026. I will not be reading all of the bylaws from 9.1 to 9.11. They are exactly as they were in our agenda package. Are there any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that carries. Thank you. Now, moving right along to, we don't have anything under previous business, but we do have a motion. Under new business, it has been moved by Deputy Mayor Armour, seconded by Councillor Clark, whereas Mayoral Decision 2025 MD-01 delegated authority to the Chief Administrative Officer to determine the organizational structure, and whereas Mayoral Decision 2025 MD-02 delegates authority to the Chief Administrative Officer to hire, dismiss, or exercise any other prescribed employment powers with respect to the head of any division or the head of any other part of the organizational structure, submitted to statutory limits, which are exercised in accordance with the CAO Bylaw 2024-15. And whereas CAO Bylaw 2024-15 mandates the CAO to establish the organizational structure of the town and determine the scope and responsibility of departments, and provided it does not exceed the council-approved budget and is in accordance with the budget and financial controls policy, the authority to restructure, create, merge, or eliminate any departments of the town, and whereas council does not have any desire to entertain any full-time employment FTE hires outside of the current 2026 budgeted funds. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Chief Administrative Officer be directed not to present to Council with reports requesting additional full-time equivalent positions beyond the authority be provided within Mayoral Decision 2025-MD-01 and 2025-MD-02 and Bylaw 2024-15 for the remainder of the 2022 to 2026 term of council. Deputy Mayor Armour, would you like to speak to this, please?
Yeah, thank you, Worship. With the restructuring process we're going through right now and changing of the guard in some positions and jobs, I thought it was important that we continue to stay within the full-time equivalent hires, not going outside our budget right now. This is still gives the CEO the opportunity to replace positions if someone should leave, or for the Public Works Department to bring on their winter hires if they have to, instead of bringing a complete hiring freeze on. So that was the intent behind it. I just wanted to ensure that we weren't hiring new people with the new restructuring.
Outside of the existing budget. Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Morrison?
Thank you, Mayor Alcock, and through you. I guess I was a bit confused when I read it, but now I dug into it a bit more. I don't really know if there's a point necessarily to the motion. I think the CAO and staff have heard loud and clear through the last 2 to 3 years. I know we did a bit of it in the first and second year, but we've made it adamant that we do not want in-year hires. So I don't see a lot of upside, only potential downside, because we're saying we all have made it clear we don't want to hire outside budget. But by taking the power away from the CEO to even bring a report to council, if something were to happen, we can't foresee what will happen between now and the end of the term. For instance, with a new operations director, might come and say, listen, I've got this plan that can actually save the town money. I would just need this position for now, and I can restructure, and this might happen. We'll save $400,000 a year given 2 years from now. There's no way to then bring that opportunity to council. So I think for me, I wouldn't want to move forward with it, only because it just limits council's chance to weigh in on something that might be relevant down the road. So it doesn't really accomplish anything, in my opinion, other than just to tell the CEO not to bring us any opportunities. So just my thought.
Okay, thank you for that. Are there any others who would like to speak to this motion? I guess really, when we look at a motion like this, I understand the comments that have been made. We don't have many operating council meetings left. And when I say operating, we don't have a council meeting in August. We have one that is open in September. And then after that, yes, it's, so we're really talking about a couple of months of workable time. So I guess I just throw that out there as to what we're trying to achieve in that. So, Councillor Cluche.
Through you, Chair. With this, I think right now, I mean, we're all in the short lease and what's going to happen going forward. I think our CAO definitely has the pulse on everything that's happening on the ins and outs, and can make with this, she can make decisions quickly, on time. I think we should put our trust in her for any decisions. I'm sure that everybody sitting around this table feels that way. She can handle it. It's like we say, there's only have one meeting left. And if anything really super comes back forward that has to happen, I'm sure we could open the door again somehow. But I think we should go forward with this and put our faith in her like we have the last 4 years.
Okay, thank you for that. And when you say go forward with this, with the motion, okay, all right. Are there any, yes, Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, Your Worship. And not to be contrary, but I would have to disagree with Councillor Cluche. I'm sorry, but I don't think I would go forward with this because I think we only have so many days left, and that we have given very clear direction to our CAO, through the strong mayors as well, to say that we're not interested in any full-time hires. So it is a little bit redundant to say this motion is saying exactly what we've already said. And I don't want to tie the hands of our CAO if something should come up, like Councillor Morrison said. So I don't think I would be in favor of this motion because I don't think it's necessary. So that's what I think.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm going back to Deputy, did you have your hand up? Is that, yeah, Deputy Mayor Armour?
Thanks very much. The idea of this motion is to reaffirm the fact that we're going to stay within our current budget. That's all this motion really does. We've never given the CEO direction saying you have to. So this is just reaffirming the fact that for the next 180 days, I think it is, that we're going to stay within our budget. They can do the restructuring in-house and without creating jobs outside the budget that may cost us money going forward in 27. That's all it's doing. Just reaffirming what we've already said to her, but putting it in print. It's not in print right now.
So just to clarify, it still maintains the CAO has some flexibility as how she can carry out the reorganization within the existing budget. Councillor Morrison.
Yeah, I guess that's I like the intent, and I've made it clear I don't want any full-time hires outside the budget, but I think it's just the wording that's clunky. Maybe the wording has to be changed or something, because it doesn't change anything from what the CEO can do right now, because anything that's within the budget, she's in charge of managing, structuring, and all that stuff of the corporation. All it does is say that council will never get to hear about any opportunities about any potential situations that might arise. So for instance, we get a $10 million grant from the province about an initiative for an operations building, but we're going to need to bring in something, a position, a contract, or something like that, that might add $5,000 to the budget, but it's going to be a massive benefit to the town. You're not allowed to bring that now. So it doesn't accomplish what Councillor Cluche was talking about. It actually takes the trust away from the CEO and saying, don't bring us anything. Well, as a councillor, if you have an idea that you think makes the town better, it might cost us $5,000, I want to hear about it. And this motion kind of takes that away.
If I may, so really the discussion is around the last paragraph, the now therefore it clause, which actually directs the CAO not to present to council. So that really is the crux of it. But the rest of it is just reiterating that we do not want to have full-time equivalents brought to council at this point, as we previously directed. So if there was some room for discussion around doing anything with that last paragraph? Is there discussion around that? Councillor Morrison?
Just say the intent is great, so receive all of the whereases, so we're aware of the intent of the
Yep.
presentation. We receive it as information, so the CEO is aware of it. But the now therefore really doesn't accomplish anything, so I think that should just be removed and we can receive the whereas. Right, because then it takes away any chance to improve the town even at a small cost.
So could I put that to the mover and the seconder? With any comments with respect to that suggestion? How about the seconder? Councillor Clark, I feel like I'm at an auction.
Thanks, Mayor Alcock. I really don't have any issue with the motion. Matter of fact, I like it that we're putting it right in print, that we're not looking to hire any more new full-time hires at this time. I've always supported that. That's been my thought process over the last year or two. So I like that direction. And we're getting into a point in time where we're coming into a time of this term of council where any decisions around that should be geared towards the next council. So I don't really have a problem with this motion as is.
Okay, thank you for that. So, Councillor Morrison.
And I like that what Councillor Clark kind of got to was great. It's about not doing something that would affect the next term of council. And the good thing is the last whereas is perfect because it accomplishes what the motion's intended to do, which council does not have any desire to entertain full-time FTEs, so it does put it in writing. But then the good news is if we take away the last part, the CAO could come with something to present an FTE and council could say, that's great, bring it to the budget, get the process started, but we don't want it hired now. Or the cost is only $5,000. This would make no sense not to do it. But then at least the 9 of us get to discuss it as opposed to a great opportunity that might need to get started now, but not hired till next term, not even be allowed to be discussed at the table, which it just doesn't make sense.
So my comment would be that if on this side, they haven't suggested removing that last paragraph. So if that's something that you wish to see, then I need a motion to amend. Right? So take out the last, to take out
Take
the
out
now
the
therefore.
but make sure we emphasize
So
the
you
last
propose an
whereas.
amendment to this motion,
Mhm.
and it's supported by Councillor Renwick. And what? Okay, I would really appreciate a suggestion. I don't know.
Well, if you remove the now therefore.
Yes.
That's the whole,
If I may, but we've already tabled it. That's what I'm saying. We've got it on the table. So if I call the vote on this motion, then that will be part of it. So we need something that takes it, removes it. That's all.
If I may, I do have a.
Yes.
Okay. I thank you very much to all of council for your comments and discussion. I do believe I understand what you're trying to accomplish, Deputy Mayor Armour. And I absolutely can assure you I had no intentions on bringing forward any FT requests between now and the end of this term. However, so it's in writing, I would suggest that you remove the last now therefore, the now therefore be resolved, get rid of that, and change the last and whereas to now therefore be it resolved that council will not be approving any full-time employee hires outside of the 26 budget. And leave it at that. And then if something did come up where it was required, I have to come back to council to get approval because you've said you're not supporting it. So that's just a recommendation, Your Worship.
Okay, but essentially you are removing the last therefore, right? So before I go to you as a response, Councillor Fitzgerald had his hand up.
Thank you, Worship, and I think everyone has good intention with this. The only thing I think about this is in 90 days, a lot of things can happen. So if an opportunity comes, and if we say budgeted funds, if an opportunity comes, but it requires a new hire with the funding, we've eliminated that potential with the wording. So we've seen it before where, yes, you can have this marketing person, but it has to be a new person, and here's the funding from the province. So I think we're closing a door for 90 days that we don't necessarily need to close.
So I think.
Just by removing budgeted
Could we take I'm sorry, I hate doing this, but I need a 5-minute break just to figure out what this wording is.
Okay. Can I give
Because
one
I don't want to
suggestion?
keep doing it around the table.
I think I have a good compromise, if I
Yep.
could speak. So I think that, this would be great. Leave the there now whereas, and then in the now therefore, just say now therefore the CEO be directed to take this under consideration should she be bringing back any reports on FTEs. So you know that we don't want FTEs. You'll only be bringing it back if it makes so much sense that you can't not bring it to us. I don't expect you're going to bring any back, but just in case.
Did you get that wording? I know, that's why I think we're
That's
all
the
talking at the same time, and I'm getting a little, I need a 5-minute break to figure this out. Thanks, Max. We are now back, and the clerk is going to put the revised motion on the screen, and it is a motion to substitute. It has been moved by Councillor Morrison, seconded by Councillor Renwick. Be it resolved that the motion be substituted for the following, and I will not read the first 3 whereases because they are the same as the one that we had before. And then we go straight to the last clause, which is, now therefore be it resolved that council will not approve any new hires outside of the current 2026 budgeted funds. And this was prepared in consultation with our CAO, who understands this new wording. And now that it's on the floor, I will look to Deputy Mayor Armour as you proposed the first motion.
Could you put the motion back up, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So what we did, we essentially changed the fourth whereas and removed the final now therefore, but we edited the wording so that the new now therefore be it resolved that council will not approve any new hires outside of the current 2026 budgeted funds, I think is a little more succinct, but the intent is the same as what you were proposing in your motion.
Thank you very much. I actually see that in there, but it's still limiting hiring anybody outside the current budget. It says the same thing. It just really, the other one just says she can't bring it forward. That's the only real change in it. So you're just saying you're not, it's not
But
much
you
different
can't
than
bring-
might as well just putting a motion on the floor, a hiring freeze outside the FTEs.
But we're not limiting it, we're council will not approve any new hires. That's true, but we're not limiting the CAO in an urgent situation if she would like to be able to bring forward a report in September for whatever reason. I know we've said we won't, but it doesn't tie her hands. That's my read of this. So CAO Corey?
Thank you, Worship. So a hiring freeze would mean that if I had a full-time equivalent position that left, I would not be able to replace them.
Right.
And that is not something our organization can function under at this time. I completely understand the desire of council not to entertain any new FTEs outside of the current budget, and that will be my commitment to you. That's what that motion says. But if you're entertaining that a hiring freeze be put in place, then that will mean if anyone leaves the organization, I am not able to fill that position. And I can tell you that will be a huge challenge for our organization.
And was that your intent, Deputy Mayor Armour, that you wanted a hiring freeze?
Originally, I think I wanted a hiring freeze, but then after consultation with the CEO, et cetera, about staying within budget, I was okay with that, not
Right.
increasing
Right.
our FTEs.
Right.
So that was a whole intent of the motion.
Yep.
Is to stay within our FTEs today,
Yep.
so we're not creating new positions.
Right.
That's all the intent of the motion was.
Okay. Are you comfortable with the revised wording?
I'll think about it.
Okay. I'm going to ask for any other comments with respect to the revised wording, the motion to substitute that is now on the table. Councillor Morrison.
Yeah, as the mover, I'll just comment that I think it's the perfect compromise. It accomplishes the intent of the mover and seconder's original motion, is to make the message loud and clear that we don't want any FTEs, but doesn't dabble in operations. I think with the original motion, we're kind of dabbling in operations and telling the CEO how to do her job. This lets the CEO know that you can report back, but it better be in really special circumstances. And I think that it would be wrong for us to limit that. So I
Thank
like the
you.
new motion.
Thank you for that. I think that after this lengthy discussion tonight, I think our CAO is pretty clear on what the intentions of council are. That's my view of this. Are there any other comments with respect to the motion to substitute? Then I'm going to call the question. All those in favor on the motion to substitute? Thank you. And that's carried. Thank you for that, Council. All those in favor of the main motion as substituted, thank you. Great. All right, so having done that, we are now going on to 11.2 with respect to our deputation discussions. There's only one motion that we've drafted in response to that, and that is with respect to our financial statements. So I therefore have a motion moved by Councillor Morrison, seconded by Councillor Renwick. Be it resolved that the draft audited Town of Huntsville consolidated financial statements for the year ending December 31st, 2025, as prepared by BDO Canada Limited, be received and approved. Are there questions or comments with respect to that? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? And that carries. So with that, we are going to general information, starting with the District of Muskoka update, and I get to start. We had two district council meetings. The first one, July 6th, was a special district council meeting that dealt with our second tranche of the Fairburn debenture financing strategy. And it just set out how we intend to proceed with financing Fairburn over a long term. And that was approved. So that was that item. And then at our regular district council meeting, most of that meeting, in fact, almost all of the significant reports were all in camera. And, with the exception of the approval of our community safety and well-being plan for 2026-2030. And that was an interesting report, so I would suggest anybody who's interested in looking at our community safety for the next 4 years, it's worth looking at. But the rest was in camera, and I can't report on that. So that is District Council. I would like to go to the joint EPW and FCS meeting, which was held on July 22nd, and I'll ask Deputy Mayor Armour if you'd like to report on the first half of that meeting.
Thank you, Worship. We had one consent agenda with only dealt with some King William reconstruction capital resurfacing, which was the Huntsville portion going into it. Spent a long time talking about the town of Bracebridge speed limit review. District will be doing speed limit reviews across all of Muskoka, and they're going by alphabet order. So Bracebridge this year, Gravenhurst next. We're going to be in the year of 28. The real interesting aspect of that is that they bring in a consultant who does the speed analysis on the road, and may decide to increase the speed on the road because it was built for that speed. Even though historically most of these roads have reduced their speed limit due to resolutions from council. So I can only say going forward, when it's Huntsville time, we have to pay a lot of attention because I know we put a lot of resolutions in the reduced speed limits. And then under environment, there's a solid waste tire collection processing verbal update, which had to do with the landfill site can only take so many tires. They aren't going out as quick as they're coming in. So some of the facilities in the area who have waste tires have to find other ways to get rid of them. And then some good news is they found an increase in capacity allocation for the Copeside pumping station. So they ran some new numbers, found some new things. So with that, the Earl Street construction process and all that stuff going on up by North Muskoka Road 3, it's going to be able to go forward now. So besides that, that was pretty much the report.
Thank you for that, and I'll go to you in a second, Councillor Fitzgerald. I think the last item around Coveside was particularly great because that will have a direct impact on at least two of the developments in Huntsville that were really waiting for that. So that's super. And Councillor Fitzgerald, you had a question.
Yeah, through you to Deputy Mayor Armour. Just a question, is the consultant doing speed analysis on Huntsville roads or just district roads?
Well, sorry about that. They're all district roads. They're
Okay.
doing it on.
Because I thank you for that.
Councillor Clark.
Thanks, Mayor Alcock. And so I have a question as well, Deputy Mayor, on the consultation. So on the district roads, if they do the study and the suggestion is to increase the speed, what input would we have here at this table when there's already speed bylaws in place that we may have implemented?
Actually, the only input we'd have here would be from your representatives from District Council. So there's quite a discussion on the Bracebridge roads, and they did keep some of the roads at the same speed limit they were set now. So each road came as a separate motion. So there was room for discussion, reasoning, and the opportunity to deny the motion to increase the speed limit.
There was a lot of discussion around that item, right? And so I'm wondering when and if, not if, but when it comes to Huntsville, that that seems like a fairly narrow window for consultation. And I'm wondering if there, at that time, if there might be some improvement as to what that consultation looks like a presentation to this council or that sort of thing.
I don't believe that's within the district policy right now, but definitely they were gonna learn off of this one, and Gravenhurst will be the same. I can only think of a couple of roads that, for example, South Portage Road, which used to be 80, and we got it reduced to 60, now it's down to 50. So that road was originally designed for speed of 80 kilometers an hour. So when they do the analysis of the road, they might come back saying they should increase it. But we would have the opportunity at district council to speak to that and get the motion on the floor there to maintain the current speed limit.
Thank you for that. Councillor Fitzgerald?
Thanks. Just one quick follow-up with Deputy Mayor Armour. How many roads do they suggest to increase the speed on? I'm very curious about that. Yeah.
It's sort of hard to tell by this report here, but when they put it up on the screen, they actually showed sections of road that were 50, wanting to increase it to 60.
Yeah.
Falkenbridge Road, I think, was one of them.
Right, Falkenberg.
Falkenberg Road
Yeah.
was one of them.
I don't,
So
I don't maybe need the answer right
No,
now, but I just want to
but-
see what we're up against when it comes to our,
Right, I think
our
if-
data and what they're suggesting here on our district roads.
If you go
Wanna be
to the
prepared.
agenda from that day, it will be in that presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, okay, Councillor Clark?
Thanks, Mayor Alcock. Last comment, it just seems kind of counterproductive to me to be looking at roads to increase the road speeds when we're dealing with nonstop residents that have concerns about the speed of the current roads. So it seems a little bit counterproductive to me. And a lot of those roads that were reduced by way of petitions that were brought through district councilors and whatnot, and a lot of work went into those speed reductions, time. So it's a little frustrating, I think.
It seems, as you said, counterintuitive. And we're looking at Huntsville, and you said this, Deputy Mayor Armour, I apologize, but 2028, right?
yeah,
Was that-
2028 actually.
Is for the Huntsville.
I did suggest at the meeting that to director that they should be looking at historical data and looking at motions that came from councils to reduce the speed limit and use that part of their whole analysis of the roadways.
All right, I don't see any other questions on that part, so I'm going to FCS. Councillor Morrison.
Mine's not as exciting, but I was at that meeting because Dan and I are both members of the joint committee now, and I should say that Deputy Mayor Armour deserves a lot of credit for, during this entire term, moving forward safety measures on roads. We all dabble in it, but Dan's been pushing it really hard. And the good news is, even on Young Street here, we got the stats today. Mike was telling us that the percentage of people exceeding the speed limit since they put in the traffic calming is down 59%, which is huge. So kudos to Deputy Mayor Armour for championing that at both levels. I didn't have a lot on the finance committee, but we also did have the AGM for the Municipal Nonprofit Housing Corporation for the district. And one very interesting tidbit that came out of that was they're balancing the budget really well with all the nonprofit. Now that's different than the district housing of 100 Pine and everything else that come out. But they're balancing the budget and even had 836,000 to put into reserves this year. But the most interesting part is that all of the mortgages in that housing corporation are going to be paid off and done by 2029. And in 2029, there's only a mortgage of 58,000 for the year. So the buildings are older and they're going to need more work. There's a lot of money to be spent, but they're going to be debt free in the next few years, which was really good news. And that's it.
Thank you for that. Are there questions of Councillor Morrison? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to the Joint Community Services and Health Services Committee, and I can be very brief. We did have an oral presentation from the Muskoka Watershed Council talking about the roadmap to integrated watershed management. That was interesting. There were a couple of information item reports that I would highly recommend council reading, and that is the Muskoka New Leaf Climate Strategy. It is an update, as well as the updated 10-year housing and homelessness plan report, which we did in fact approve, and that is that was really excellent. It's a required report to go to the province to update. The one item I did want to mention actually came out of closed, but we had a motion in the public session that advanced our affordable housing agenda in the form of head leases. And our committee approved going into a contract with two separate private developers, one in Bracebridge, one in Huntsville, to enter into head lease with both of them, and which will end up providing 10 new units in Huntsville that are at the very deeply subsidized rate, and that is with Brunel Road Management and with Prasher Holdings in Bracebridge, which will add another 6 new units at a very deeply subsidized rate. As well, the motion dealt with discussion with another developer on the possibility of adding 25 new below market rate affordable housing units in a new 42 unit building. So that was pretty exciting because we've talked about doing a head lease for years and we're finally moving on it. So that was kind of neat. Over to you, Councillor Stone, with respect to health services.
Health services was quite short, aside from some regular reporting. We had a presentation from Paramedic Services and Emergency Management about the 2026 freshet and flood response, and it went very well. And we learned lots, and we have plans going forward and have devices like cofferdams to mitigate some of our roads that tend to flood. So we're doing well.
Are there any questions or comments about CPS or health services? Okay, seeing none. We had a lot of council correspondence from June 16th to July 17th in our packages. And moving to upcoming events on August 14th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Rivermill Park. We have Christine's Place Back to School Festival and fill a backpack event, and we're hoping to fill 400 backpacks. So children will receive an empty backpack as they enter Rivermill Park and then visit each partner booth located in the parking lot to collect donated items to fill their backpack. This participatory approach gives you the opportunity to personally gift your pledged items to children and engage with community families face-to-face, creating a meaningful and memorable experience for everyone. And under flag raisings and lowering on Monday, July 20th, we did raise the Muskoka Pride flag at 9 a.m. in Civic Square. And because we don't have a meeting in August, we are talking about flag raising, which is the Terry Fox flag raising on September 14th at 10 a.m. And that will also be in Civic Square. Councillors, is there anything else that we'd like to mention as far as events? Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would like to remind everyone that it's the Port Sydney Lions 27th anniversary of our duck race on Sunday, the 2nd of August. And our benefactors of all the funds from the duck race are Community Living and Hospice Huntsville this year.
Great.
Starts at 1 o'clock, lunch is at 12.
Thank you for that. Okay. Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I'm sorry to go back to one of the events that you just mentioned, but the Christine's Place, the backpacking filling. Did you say that was on the 14th, but was it in Rivermill Park in the parking lot?
It's in Rivermill Park, and Rivermill Park located in the parking lot to collect, yes.
So they're actually taking out the parking lot. Okay, let me just check this.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure that they received approval for it.
I'm sure they did, yeah. I would prefer if they were in the park rather than the parking lot.
Receive an empty as they enter Rivermill Park. Oh, sorry. Okay. I think it's the whole thing because children will receive an empty backpack as they enter Rivermill Park and then visit each partner booth located in the parking lot to collect. So it sounds like both. It will be well marked the day of, all right? And that's from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Okay. All right, nothing. With that, I think we're done. So I have a motion moved by Councillor Cluche, seconded by Councillor Morrison. Be it resolved that the next portion of the meeting be closed to the public commencing now at 8:27 p.m. for the purpose of considering the following matter pursuant to Section 2392 of the Municipal Act 2001, subsection K, a position plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board. Confidential Report, Corp. 2026-51, Legislative Services Division, IT Shared Services. All those in favor? That carries. We do have an item coming out of closed, and I do have a motion. It has been moved by Councillor Morrison, seconded by Councillor Renwick. Be it resolved that the recommendation contained within Confidential Report Corp 2026-51 be approved. All those in favor? And that carries. I have a motion moved by Councillor Stone, seconded by Councillor Cluche. Be it resolved that confirmation bylaw 2026-70 be received and passed this 27th day of July 2026. All those in favor? That carries. And I have a motion moved by Councillor Schumacher, seconded by Councillor Renwick. Be it resolved that we do now adjourn at 8:50 p.m. All those in favor? Thank you very much. And thank you, everybody.